The Tour de France commenced yesterday with opportunity abundant. But as the peloton hit the Passage du Gois, turmoil on the road brought about early intrigue in the overall. Caught behind on the crashes, the top contender suddenly faces a significant deficit.
It would appear to me only one man has been caught out, and that is the defending champion, Alberto Contador. There he is.
Now enjoying an early advantage is main rival Andy Schleck, and an Australian favorite who managed to steer clear. But chaos couldn't catch Philippe Gilbert. With the stage win in sight, the Belgian champion dashed past the field.
Gilbert tries to hang on. Oh, it's going to hurt the legs. There's no doubt the first maillot jaune will go to Philippe Gilbert.
Today, the Tour's agenda brings on team tactics. Stay with us. It's Stage 2, the team time trial, up next. Beautiful Les Essarts in the Vendée region in western France, site of Stage 2 of the 2011 Tour de France. Today, the question is, which team will finish first? Hello, everyone. I'm Liam McHugh. Stage 1 is in the books. Stage 2 is on the horizon. It is the team time trial. Joining me, as always, is Bob Roll. We'll break all of that down in just mere moments. But before we look to the future, let's take a look back. Philippe Gilbert powers to victory in Stage 1. What does this mean not only for him, but for the entire country of Belgium?
Well, Belgium is a cycling crazy country, and they are dancing in the streets all over the country. Joyous in Belgium. Philippe Gilbert is having a legend-making season. Every time he pushes hard on the pedals, he seems to win a race, and the first stage of the Tour de France was no exception. And then as an added bonus, the first yellow jersey of the race. Great stage for Gilbert.
Gilbert captures the yellow jersey. Let's take a look at the highlights from Stage 1 of the 2011 Tour de France. Begin, of course, with the ribbon cutting, and then in the Passage du Gois, the ceremonial rollout, the start. You'll see the flag drop, the pedals will begin to churn, and we are underway. And now the breakaway.
Three riders wasting no time. Christian Prudhomme, the race director of the Tour, drops the flag, and they are off to the races. Three men in the early breakaway.
This would be foreshadowing for what was to come. This was a minor crash, but we'd have bigger ones later.
No good turn in cycling goes unpunished. Jurgen van der Wal going down hard early in the stage.
A big moment right here for U.S. cycling and Tyler Farrar.
Tyler Farrar here getting the better of Andre Greipel without too much trouble at all. This is an intermediate sprint, but it's for a lot of points in this year's Tour de France. Half as many as at the finish line, so they are serious about the green jersey. Garmin-Cervelo has come to race to this year's Tour de France.
Green jersey is at stake. Tyler Farrar making a statement early. The breakaway, we saw them early, and this really was an inevitability.
This was going to happen no matter what, and that was just before the big action of the stage.
Big action coming, about 6 miles to go. You see a spectator just a few steps onto the road. Carnage ensued right there.
Please do not stand in the road when you come to a bike race. This is an Astana rider, hits a spectator, goes flying back into the field. The dominoes start now. So Alberto Contador, he is a little bit too far back. You can see how far back he is. He's way behind the front line where you need to be. He has to get off his bike. He's losing time now. This is only 6 miles for the finish. So meanwhile, at the front of the bike race, they are going absolutely flat out for the sprint finish.
So he's unharmed, but you'd certainly have to question his strategy.
Well, it's not a great place to be that close to the finish line. You have to always constantly rotate to the front for 3 weeks, and that's the mark of a real champion in the Tour de France. He's been able to do that in the past, but stage number 1 was not that good for him.
It was not the last crash in the stage either. About 2K to go. Andy Schleck involved in this one, but not as terrible time-wise.
Well, this is within the last 3 kilometers of the race, so everybody in the same group, when they have a mishap, is giving the time they would have had anyways at the finish line with the riders they were with. So Andy Schleck credited with just 6 seconds behind the stage winner.
So we're coming down the stretch, and Fabian Cancellara making his move right here.
Lighting the fuse here, Cancellara. Gilbert sees the move. This is very dangerous. Cancellara, one of the most powerful men in the sport of cycling. Gilbert looks back. He sees they have the gap, and he hits the afterburners, and even Cancellara cannot respond to that acceleration by Gilbert. It's Cadel Evans trying to get across, but a little bit too late, and Philippe Gilbert with an absolutely brilliant stage win.
Philippe Gilbert sealing the victory with a kiss. The Belgian national champ elated after So that's ecstasy, and this is more or less the look of disappointment. You can see it written all over. The weight of the world really on his shoulders at this point.
Yeah, very disappointing start of the Tour de France. With 10Ks to go, he's in good place to defend his title, but at the finish line, he's 1 minute and 14 seconds behind all his rivals.
If that's disappointment, this is clearly what pure joy looks like. The yellow jersey, the first one in 2011, going to Philippe Gilbert. Right now, though, let's take a look at the overall standings presented by Michelob Ultra. Of course, Gilbert in first, and then you saw Cadel Evans. A little too little too late, but nonetheless second. Tor Hushoff, your pick yesterday, a strong third as we look through 6 through 10.
7th place, Andreas Kloden from Team Radio Shack, along with Chris Horner. Great heads-up riding by the two men. All four of their overall contenders were in the front group. Tony Martin also racing well. Our notables, TJ Van Garderen, the young American on HTC, just 6 seconds behind. Great riding. Andy Schleck right there in the front group, along with Levi Leipheimer. Now the disappointment begins for Alberto Contador. When he looks at that time gap, over a minute behind, that's an absolute disaster in what should have been a reasonable stage for the overall contenders.
And certainly not the start that American Christopher Van der Velde was hoping for either, but obviously the big news of the day was the setback suffered by Alberto Contador. Yeah, he's 120 off the lead, but I think that number 114 behind Andy Schleck, you remember, he defeated Schleck by just 39 seconds last year. So put this in perspective. How disastrous is this for Contador?
Well, bike racing nowadays has become so close. It's a race of literally inches. And so for Contador to already behind by 1 minute and 14 seconds and looking at perhaps a little more of a deficit after the team time trial, he might lose a little bit more time in that. And if you start the mountains already 2 minutes behind, considering all the dangers to come in the Tour de France, it's very discouraging.
That crash with about 6 miles to go was the talk of the Tour, and it also brought up a unique situation sportsmanship-wise. Let's take a look back. Last year, stage 15, this was a huge moment in the Tour. Andy Schleck dropped his chain. Alberto Contador then attacked, gaining 39 seconds, the same 39 seconds he would win by, and a lot of people questioned his sportsmanship.
This is deep into the Tour in a high mountain stage. Only the overall contenders left in the front of the bike race. Contador attacking when Andy Schleck is on the side of the road, trying to get his chain back together. So it was a bit questionable.
Now, it's not the same situation, clearly, but yesterday, 6 miles to go, the crash occurs right here. There's carnage, the domino effect, the ripple effect. But at this point, Team Radio Shack appears to really amp it up and go after it hard. Is this a breach of etiquette?
Well, when you see a big pileup in the peloton, you'd be getting a little bit extra desperation in keeping your overall contenders right at the front of the bike race. You're trying to protect your position. Completely different situation than last year, and it was absolutely nothing to do with poor sportsmanship.
And it's a balance almost of etiquette and strategy. Because
exactly.
You'd want to be in that spot, as we mentioned with Contador, you want to be in the right place in the peloton so that you're not left behind time-wise. Two proper gentlemen who never, ever need a lesson in etiquette will join us next. They are Phil Liggett and Paul Sherwin. We'll look ahead to stage 2 and place some predictions.
The 2011 Tour de France pre-race.
Team Time Trial is just an event that I really love. I think it's the most beautiful event in cycling. Visually, it's beautiful. I think it broadens the audience's understanding of how cycling really works. It's the fastest event in cycling. You know, you're going 60, 65K an hour. It's the most precise event. You cannot make a mistake in a Team Time Trial or you won't win, or maybe even more catastrophic, you'll, take out your entire team.
Team Time Trial is easy to get right if you've got a load of guys that are on really good form. It's not rocket science. You've just got to be able to ride fast as a group. The more you overthink it, the more it tends to you find mistakes and you tend to just make errors.
Team Time Trial is a one day where everybody has to be in top form and has to give everything because you ride together. If you have a bad day and they drop you, it's going to be a long way back to the finish for you. It's not just because you have to ride on your own. It's like you let the whole team go down. So. And that's what everybody's scared about.
It shows how strong the whole team is, how good you can work with each other, how good you can fight for each other.
The big motivation is a teamwork, and everybody, not only one rider, can do everything alone. It's impossible.
One of the most beautiful elements of sport. People look forward to that, athletes, spectators. It's big drama. I think that's an important element of the beauty of the sport.
Team Time Trial is the one event where that guy, Joe Sixpack, Joe Public, can say, oh, now I get it. I see why cycling is a team sport and not an individual sport.
After a one-year hiatus, the team time trial is back. After a one-segment hiatus, Paul and Phil back on the set. We're happy to have you back. Are you two happy that the team time trial is back?
Well, I certainly am, because I think it is one of the most exciting disciplines in the sport. It's all about technique. It's all about the strength and depth of a team.
Yeah, I quite agree, Paul. It is a real addition to the Tour de France. There's no doubt about that. And because it's a much shorter than usual, it's not going to do that much to affect the riders with potential ability to win the Tour, but they race on a weaker team because it's a team race that affects the individual standings, and that's my only complaint, really.
Let's do a little guided tour right now. Fire up the Michelin map. Phil Liggett will drive us through this and show us what we have in store.
Well, we're not too far away from yesterday's stage. In fact, many people drove through Les Essarts to the start of yesterday's stage, or rather the finish of yesterday. We're running still on the Vendée. We're going, the race itself will visit La Roche-sur-Yon, which is the capital of the Vendée region. All of the riders going out in the 9-man sections, and no real climbs, Paul, and a short distance, 23 kilometres.
Well, I'll tell you what, it is a great event, and as we know, stage 2 from Les Essarts is the team time trial. It's 23 kilometres long, and that's just about the same as the length of the island of Manhattan, 13.5 miles. The last time that the Tour came to Les Essarts was 2005, and it was a sprint finish on that occasion, and of course the win going to the big Tom Bonan.
They're not just amazing tour guys, they're also fearless forecasters. It is Cadillac Performance Predictions time. Fans of Phil Liggett, drink it in. Right out of the gates, just brilliant, selecting the winner. He is off to a great start with 4 points. Of course, Bob picking up 2 points with Tora Pushov. And then there's Paul. Now, let's just say, Paul, you were unlucky, so you do not get this.
Well, you know, you've got
Just
to
send it down
understand
this way.
the Tour de France is a 3-week event,
Boys,
so
boys.
I'm coming back at the end.
Very nice. Welcome back. It's a boomerang, this jersey. It left me in Paris last year.
Bob, you were saying you were just giving people a cushion. I'm not Bob, excuse me, Paul. You were saying you were just giving people a cushion, trying to be a gentleman about the whole thing.
Absolutely. Well, I picked 2 riders yesterday. They were both involved in an accident at 2 kilometres to go.
Let's make predictions today. Bob, you are up first. What team do you like?
23 clicks, the best sprinters in the world. It's a very short team time trial. HTC High Road, they are the best sprinters in this bike race. It's a pretty short one. They also have 2 very good time trialists in Tony Martin, an American, TJ Van Garderen, HTC Columbia. I need some points. Come on, guys.
Paul, your tour begins right now. Who do you like?
Well, I'm not sure it does begin right now. It's so hard. I was going to go for Team Radio Shack because, after all, in 2009, under the colours of Team Astana, that was the winning team. But I've decided to go for a younger team and, of course, a British team. And I'm going to go for Team Sky because they are the young bucks. They are the team that's on the up and up at the moment, and they've got great form, especially with Bradley Wiggins after his recent win in the Criterium de Dauphiné. And those young kids alongside him, they're going to be looking for the win.
Phil, you have the yellow jersey. You're looking to hang on to it. Who do you like?
Well, I'd like the competition to end right now, but as it is going to go on for another 3 weeks, and both of these guys are going to score points today, that's for sure. This is going to be a terrific race today. Very important the riders race well. I'm going for Garmin Cervelo. This to them will be like a world championship today. They've got the firepower. They've left out some good riders because of this race, like Dan Martin, Johan van Sommen. So there's no doubt that they will win, and I will have 8 points in about 2 or 3 hours' time.
No doubt whatsoever.
No doubt. Look at Philippe Gilbert.
What confidence.
I enjoy that confidence. I will not make a pick because, like I said, absolutely no one wants me to. Instead, I will give you the notable start times. And right off the bat, Alberto Contador's team, Saxo Bank, they will be the first team to go 8:30 a.m. We will show you this stage in its entirety live. Garmin Cervelo, the team that Phil likes, up next just about an hour later at 9:26 a.m. Eastern Time. The final team is Omega, 10:57 a.m. in the East. Alberto Contador, a man under a microscope. If he is going to rebound, he's going to have to rely on a little help from his friends.
Cadillac.
Welcome back. Last August, it was announced that 2 of the top teams in cycling would merge. The result was American powerhouse Garmin Cervelo. Let's take a closer look at a team looking to capture its first stage win at the Tour de France.
Our goal is to be the #1 team in the world. And that goal is not dependent on any one individual. Our first objective is always going to be, you know, to create the most financially stable environment possible and make decisions to that end so that the team survives for many, many years to come.
The new merger with this team has been great. I mean, there's a bunch of new guys sitting at the dinner table every night. There isn't the same pressure solely on myself. It's spread out over 8-10 people now.
Obviously, you know, there's been some pretty big changes in the team moving into 2011. I think as far as the Cervello guys coming over, it's a change for the better. We've added an incredible amount of depth and experience to our roster.
This year's team is for sure the best team I've ever been riding on. With this team, if it's me or someone else, but the team really have a big chance to win.
We're in an interesting situation where you know, we're going to go into a lot of the really big races with a few guys who could potentially win or come up with a pretty big result. And then the other side of it is the director is going to say who the leader is, and that guy's going to have some pretty impressive support behind him.
If you look at our roster, you know, I've seen some formulas, some rankings out there. Ours is the best you can get for what riders have for points scored, and that's what we have to be looked at now, and that's why we're choosing to set a goal to be the #1 team in the world.
This is exactly what needs to happen in bike racing. I mean, bike racing needs to focus on greater quality and in less quantity. Cycling tends to grow broad as opposed to up. And, you know, I think this team is an example of cycling growing up. That's the direction the sport needs to go.
So as these two teams merge, are they now built to challenge for a stage like this?
Today's stage is perfect for Garmin-Cervello, merging with Cervello and creating a super team almost. The team time trial, as we saw yesterday, is immune to the open road chaos. And so if you have the riders that are capable of doing good time trials, you might as well put them together and try for a stage win in the team time trial. I think that's a great strategy for Garmin.
Robbie Ventura is our man down on the course, and he has more on Garmin-Cervello.
Garmin-Cervello has been targeting the team time trial here at the Tour de France since the route was announced last October. I caught up with Robbie Ketchel, the sports scientist here at Garmin-Cervello, and he explained to me the detail this team has gone through to prepare for this event. They've been actually measuring weather patterns for the last 4 months, crosswinds, headwinds, figuring out temperature to set the bike up perfectly with the right wheel depth as well as the water bottle position on the bicycles. This morning they found out that the road surface was a little soft. They're going to use a wider, harder tire to reduce rolling resistance. One thing's for certain, if Garmin-Cervello loses today, it's not from a lack of preparation.
Do most teams go into that much detail prepping for the team time trial?
No, absolutely not. Very few teams go to anywhere near the amount of preparation Garmin-Cervello has put into this event. 4th tour, no stage wins, no yellow jersey. The pressure is on. They've been training for years for a stage win in the Tour de France, and this might be their best chance of the whole tour.
Stage 2, the team time trial, looms large, and we would like you to experience the tour like never before. Go to NBCSports.com/cycling and get your Tour de France all access. Watch every stage live online, in your tablet, or on your phone. Available now on NBCSports.com/cycling. Get your Tour de France all access for just $29.95. The team time trial is on the horizon. Phil and Paul will have the call.
The Tour's opening frame turned Philippe Gilbert into a focal point. And now cycling's eyes shift from the individual to a stage defined by numbers. Absent from the Tour last year, the showcase of teams against the clock returns. An exercise in physics, strategy, cohesion, and timely leadership, where the pack is only as swift as its last moving part. For some top contenders, it presents an opportunity. For another, it urgently underscores a question. Is his team strong enough to keep up? The unique challenge at hand, to merge each individual piece into one perfectly orchestrated engine. The team time trial returns on stage 2 of the Tour de France next. Yes, it is back and we are ready. The team time trial returns to the Tour de France. A big battle amongst the race favourites, and just how strong are the teams. We will bring you the entire coverage of this second stage of the Tour, from the first team off to the last team to finish. And there's the crowd ready here in Les Essarts. This is the heart of the cycling capital of France. Hi everybody, welcome. Well, I was going to say welcome to a sunny day here, but the cloud has blown in as we wait for the first team to start, Paul. But before we get down to looking at the action, just tell us a little bit about the team time trial.
Well, the team time trial I always regard as a very beautiful race to watch. It's a special discipline in the sport. This is how it works. All of the team members start at 7-minute intervals in reverse order of the team standings. However, the finish is determined by the fifth rider to cross the finishing line, and every rider who finishes with that fifth rider gets the same time. Riders will take turns pulling at the front to set the pace, and of course pushing between teammates is completely forbidden.
Oh, it certainly is, but it is a team race, isn't it, Paul? And you know, we've got 22 teams in the Tour de France. They now start, as Paul has said, 7 minutes apart. But when you're in a long line of 9 riders on a course which is very narrow and quite twisty, well, 2 years ago we saw just how many fell off.
We saw lots of drama in the team time trial in 2009, but I tell you one thing, it really is just about to start and get underway.
First team on the block, and I think this is the first time in the history of the team time trial that the last year's winner is in the first team to go. Alberto Contador, having lost that minute 20 yesterday, his whole team falling back to bring him home meant they finished with the slowest team time of the day, so they start first of the 22 teams. It'll be Philippe Gilbert's Omega Pharma Lotto team, who he won the stage yesterday. His team backed him up. They will be the last team to start, but that's a little way down the road now. Look at this wonderful crowd. You can see the cloud which has blown in. There's the man in the hot seat. Rather takes me back a few years, Paul, to Pedro Delgado in 1989 when he missed the start in his prologue time trial and then had a disastrous race in the team time trial when he was the defending champion.
He had to fight his way back. That's Alberto Contador on the left-hand side. Well, now we're seeing the whole team, all 9 riders, and that's what the team time trial is all about, Phil. It's a measure of the strength in set of a team.
The big cheers from the crowd. I didn't hear too many boos for Alberto Contador. Now he's on the back heel. Maybe there's a bit of sympathy forming here for him because he is a pretty popular guy. Is well documented appeal by the World Anti-Drugs Agency. Still, of course, awaiting an opinion which won't come until the 1st of August. Now you get some idea as we see this team out. It's 7 minutes before the Euskaltel-Euskadi team takes to the road. And just look at this crowd here, enjoying a lovely day in the Vendée region of France. They've really turned on the style here. It rather reminds me of the Winter Olympics in Albertville when they gave the Winter Olympics to Albertville, but they ran the events at 10 different venues. And that seems to be what we're doing today. We're having a veritable tour of the towns and villages of the Vendée yesterday and today. Now we're underway. The first thing they've got to do is slip into their formations and get used to riding with each other. This is an event which they don't ride very often, very rarely indeed in team time trial formation, Paul. So they will have trained for this day.
All of the teams who feel that they've got a chance of winning the Tour de France overall will have spent a lot of time and money and preparation to try and figure out what's the best line. And in fact, as you can see, just looking at the numbers of the riders, they're not consecutive. They've actually decided which is the best rider to follow, because some riders, when they go to the front, they accelerate too rapidly for a guy who has a different kind of engine.
Yes, and they mustn't destroy their riders either, Paul, because if they do, they'll weaken their team, and they've always got to wait for the 5th man, because that's where the times come from. Let's have a look at Contador's lineup. He wears number 1 as last year's winner. He's got Hernandez, Navarro, Naval, Richie Port from Tasmania, first time in the Tour, but a good one. Chris Anker Sorensen and Nicky Sorensen, the 2 Danish riders. Matteo Tessato, he is an Italian, and Brian Van Bork. That's his makeup, all hand-picked. He believes these are the men which can defend him right the way through, but today he will rely on this very much indeed. There he is, he carries 1. He's winner of the Tour de France the last 2 years, and while you defend successfully, you keep that number. Now, these are the narrow roads. The flag of Brittany is flying, that black and white flag. We're going there shortly. It's not looking terribly smooth right now. Actually, this guy at the back here, who is Navarro, is struggling to hold on.
Well, a lot of people have said Alberto Contador has taken a little bit of a risk in having so many Spanish riders on his squad. He's gambled on having the Spanish riders to accompany him when he gets into the mountains. But in the past, the Spanish riders, the Spanish teams, I have to say, Euskaltel, Euskadi, for example, have never really been very good at this discipline. But what Alberto Contador has to do today, Phil, is he has to use every one of his teammates for as long as possible so they can give their maximum effort. Because it's not about Alberto Contador here this afternoon, it's about Team Saxo Bank.
Yes, well, they've got... They replaced Andy Schleck on this squad. Schleck took half the team with him and formed his own team in Luxembourg this year, leaving the side of the manager of this team, Bjarne Riis. They say it was because Bjarne Riis didn't have the money to hold them, but Bjarne Riis found the money to bring on board Saxo Bank, to Saxo Bank, Alberto Contador. Because of that, they've now become quite big rivals in more ways than one. They really want to beat the Leopard Trek team.
Well, sorry about the little bit of picture breakup. Looking down here, you can see the big organisation as they're starting to get themselves organised. They've got a crosswind on the way out, but once they start to turn themselves round towards at the finish, they will start to pick up a very rapid tailwind, and that will push speeds very close to 60-65 kilometres an hour. The average speed that was set by Discovery Channel around Blois in 2005 was an average speed of 57.5 kilometres an hour, which is not far off 40 miles an hour.
Well, again, they've got off to a cracking pace. Very important here, because this is Benjamin Noval here. Used to be on the same team as Lance Armstrong. He's now on Saxo Bank, and he's struggling too. So for some of the riders, it's really hard to get into a rhythm, because from dropping out that little start ramp, they will pick their speed up immediately to 30-32 miles an hour, and that really hurts the legs until they get into it. This is why we saw pictures earlier of Alberto Contador warming up, getting that body ready for the ride, because you've got to hit the top spots straight away. Will only be a matter of seconds between the top teams. And remember, after yesterday, Alberto Contador is starting his Tour de France today a minute and 20 seconds behind the leader and winner yesterday, Philippe Gilbert.
The team, though, Phil, will be extremely pumped up. They know that their leader has lost a little bit of time yesterday. He's lost a minute and 20 seconds, in fact, over Philippe Gilbert. But they will do everything they can to try and pull him back into this race, or at least limit the losses that he may incur on the team time trial this afternoon. He has to get his mind set. He's got to get his mind back into gear to come back as a champion, as a defending champion of the Tour de France.
Well, he is a good individual time trialist, as he's shown us in the past, especially in the Tour de France, where he's won the time trial. But this is a team effort. The clock will not stop till the fifth man on the team crosses the line, and all riders with that fifth man or ahead of him will receive that fifth man's time.
And that's the important thing. They're going out. This is a pretty good course, actually. Many of the riders have said to me today, Phil, that although the course is fairly narrow, there are not that many tricky corners out on it, as the time trial was a couple of years ago in 2009, where we saw multiple teams losing riders, shooting off into a farm field.
Now, the first time we'll get some idea how the teams are going. Remember, this unusually so is the last year's champion blazing the trail today, first out of the house of the 22 squads. It's in reverse order of the overall team standings in the race, and right now Saxo Bank are last in that order after yesterday. And that's because of the problem to Contador. Now, these boys here will set the first marker for us all to see at 9 kilometres. The second one at 16, and then the finish. Back to the start. Euskadi.
Well, this is really the team of the mountains. We expect to see this team ride well once we get up into the high peaks of the Pyrenees and the Alps. They're an aggressive team, and this is a discipline that they've never really shone at over the years.
But they'll want to try and help their team captain, Samuel Sanchez, number 21, because he is the Olympic champion. He's also the best man on this squad for a long-term bet for a reasonably high finish in the Tour de France, as they get 20 seconds to the start for this team from the Basque Country. And then they'll go down that little ramp there. Tense moments. And the next team to go will be the Vacances Soleil. Had a man in the moves yesterday.
2, 1, stop!
And we're away. 9 riders, and they've never done a good team time trial. Perhaps a little bit better today, we can only hope. The big teams seem to be the specialists coming from the United States. Garmin Cervelo, HTC, Should be a good challenge from the Sky team from Great Britain. Radio Shack will also want to do a top performance because of Levi Leipheimer. Now, I'm not too sure why Contador's waving his finger around. It was number 7 who just waved his finger. That's Nicky Sorensen. Well, they want more speed, I think. They're really struggling at the moment to get into a rhythm. It looks a little bit ragged to me, this one, at the moment.
Well, it does. In fact, in this part of the course, what we should see if they're a well-drilled team time trial squad is they should be riding in a complete line. And because of the direction of the wind, there should be just one rider slipping back at a time, and that's not perfect at the moment. They need to get themselves organised. You see the rider now at the front. He's pulled over to the right-hand side. Number 8, he'll slip to the back of that group and get right into the wheel of Alberto Contador. Contador himself doesn't look quite that comfortable currently, but you can ride yourself into this.
15 kilometres, that's to the finish, by the way. A total distance today of 23 kilometres, just under 15 miles. And all of the way, this is the first team to start. Saxo Bank, they wouldn't have expected that when they were preparing for this. They would have normally have been in the last 4 teams to start and chasing somebody in front of them. So they're blazing the trail today after that accident yesterday, about 10 kilometres out from the finish by Alberto Contador. The whole team falling back to try and help him. And not a great job, I have to say, because he lost 1 minute and 20 seconds.
Well, this is Euskaltel Euskadi. This is the team of the Olympic gold medalist from Beijing, Sammy Sanchez. They're actually looking fairly well.
Well, we're just getting near the first time check at the moment with Saxo Bank, so here we are. So these are the times that everybody's going to aim at. Remember, the other teams haven't started yet that really matter. They're going to keep a close eye on this. And the clock again will try and pick out, well, it will pick out the 5th man in this squad. And that's the time that they will be given through this check, which comes at just 9 kilometres in. There's the banner across the road as they come up here towards the line. They'll be looking for that 5th man.
There are not that many turns out on the course. Talking to a number of the riders who've been round the course, there are maybe 5 or 7 that are rather dangerous. The rest of the course is fairly straight and extremely fast.
Well, the first check has come through at 9 minutes and 13 seconds for 9 kilometres. That is moving just on 1 minute per half mile of racing. So the race is underway, and it's Saxo Bank who are blazing the trail and throwing down the challenge. We'll see in a moment.
The 2011 Tour de France on Versus is brought to you by Head Sweats, the world leader in performance headwear.
Today at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, the Tour de France continues on NBC with additional coverage of today's second stage, the Team Time Trial. It's additional coverage of the Tour de France, Stage 2, later today at 3 p.m. Eastern on NBC. So we're looking down on the start and the finishing town of the time trial today at Les Essarts. We're looking down on Saxo Bank, and we saw him struggling, and indeed he's now been left behind. Ben Novell, who's riding his 6th Tour de France here, they have launched a terrific speed from the gun, Paul. He's been left behind, and you know, if he finishes at more than 6 minutes behind that team, he could be eliminated from the race.
That's the difficult thing about the short team time trial here this afternoon. Vacances Soleil have struggled for many years to earn themselves selection for the Tour de France, and finally they've managed to do it. Romain Felu is their leader, but he's actually a very good sprinter. Bjorn Lukemans, number 205, is a very fast Belgian rider, and Louis Vistre was in the breakaway yesterday. Now that's going to hurt his legs in a very violent effort. Well, that's one thing you have to understand about this, Bill. If you're a strong rider, it's a great discipline to ride because you're one of the strongest men in the team. But if you're one of the weakest riders in the team, you've got to pull yourself inside out to stay in contact sometimes.
Yes, and this team has got quite a number of first-timers in the Tour de France, so they don't have a great depth in experience. It's a new team to the Tour. They don't have a contender for final victory. They just want to get what they can out of the Tour. So they're not going to break their necks today to win this stage, I don't think. Now, as our camera again picks out Team Saxo Bank, which carries number 1 for the last 2 years, a champion in Alberto Contador. They have dropped already 1 man because of the speed. They are absolutely flying at the moment. They've gone through the first check of 9 kilometres, just over 5.5 miles in 9 minutes and 13 seconds. And having dropped a man, Now, the rule says that anybody who finishes behind the team by more than 30% of the time the team records will be eliminated from the Tour de France, and that will represent, we won't know till they finish the exact time, but 6 or 7 minutes, Paul, and he's dropped very early.
He has dropped very early on, and that's a surprise to me because Benjamin Noval is a very good time trialist, especially in an event like this. It may well be because of the speed that they've gone out of the box. Alberto Contador is trying to ride himself back into this year's Tour de France. On the other hand, I have to say that Euskaltel-Euskadi are looking fairly well organised here. You see the rider on the far side, Gorka Verdugo, number 29. He's done his turn at the front end of the line for probably around about 100 metres. He slips back and then he'll slip in behind number 28, and that is Ivan Velkasko. And then he will try and recuperate for a short while before moving his way straightway up to the front of that line to try and get himself back to the front again.
Well, this is the time check now. You can see the time as Saxo Bank has gone through. I don't think Euskaltel is going to match that, but they didn't look as smooth as me, but they're not that far behind it as they head up to the board. They're going to lose a few seconds here, but they're riding a lot better than at first appeared. They're much more disciplined, if you like, than the Saxo Bank.
And don't forget, last year, Sammy Sanchez, for a few seconds, lost himself a podium finish. Well, they've just gone through that time check. They're 16 seconds out. I would say for Euskaltel-Euskadi, Phil, at almost 57 kilometres an hour, they're going to be fairly happy with that performance.
So that's the two markers then for the big teams to follow. Next to will be Vacansoleil. Now, make sure you are playing the IZOD Race for the Podium sweepstakes. Log on to NBCSports.com/podium every day during the tour. It's your chance to win a trip for two to next year's Tour de France and the Cervelo S5 bicycle. You can also win a clean bottle and a Giro race helmet. Today's code word is aerodynamic. So we're underway. Saxo Bank are trying to bring Alberto Contador back into the Tour de France here with the ride of their lives. But just how good is that ride? We won't know till the others get underway. We're back with the team times on the Tour de France. First team to start. We caught a glimpse of it there. That was Saxo. We're looking at Euskaltel-Euskadi here. But I can tell you, Saxo have blown another rider out of the team too. Jesus Hernandez. He has also been dropped. So we've lost two riders now from that breakaway, from that team. And the elimination time, we reckon today, 6 or 7 minutes based on the time of the team. And there's number one now. Contador is shouting at his riders and is really driving them on. Well, there's no doubt they had a big team talk to start with, Paul. The decision was to ride to the utmost of their speed here. And again, the farmers from the Essarts region here of the Vendée are sending their goodwill to the 2011 Tour de France. I'm not sure the cow there will appreciate that big stake on the plate. This is Alberto Contador pushing on as we go back to the start to see the departure of the AG2R team from France. Countdown.
Nicolas Rocha on the right-hand side, who is looking to get himself a high position in the overall standings. He had a very nasty crash about a month ago, and I thought it may well prevent him from starting the Tour de France this year, but I think he's back to form.
So AG2R make their start. They're the fourth team to go of the 22 teams today. And we've gone back up here to the leaders now. The time check of Saxo Bank's second check has gone through at 17 minutes. And we're now waiting for the arrival of the finish line here. I also think they're getting 3 kilometres to go here. So we've got 6 riders left. So we've actually lost 3 riders now.
Yes, another rider just tailed off a few minutes ago, and that's because of the severity of the pace. They've decided to go out extremely quickly. They were quite prepared to lose a few men out on the course. So the other man who's gone, I presume, is going to be Daniel Navarro.
Well, this team is blazing a lone trail because there's no target in front. Amazingly, the team that carries last year's Tour winner for the past 2 years finished last yesterday in the team race. So they're first to start today. They've got no markers, and the big teams are all watching this on television before they ride. They'll know what they've got to do to match these splits. So they've got to go as fast as they possibly can, and they've got to show no regard for their weaker team. And they've kicked 3 of them off already. Now they've got to keep 5, that's for sure. The time is only taken on the 5th man over the line.
That puts a lot of pressure on Saxo Bank now to make sure they've got to keep at least 5 riders, because the clock does not stop until that 5th rider crosses the line. Alberto Contador has put in some very big turns at the front end. He's trying to get as much as he can into the team. He's trying to give the other riders with him a little bit of respite as they now look at 2 kilometers to go. And at speeds like this, Phil, we're touching 40 miles an hour, 60 kilometers an hour. So we are looking at the next 2 kilometers being covered a minute at a time.
That's correct. 2 minutes to the finish. It's amazing, but we've only had 4 teams start of the 22, and the first team is almost back home here, because Saxo Bank are setting the mark. They're the best time at the check so far, but then we've only had 1 team through this first check and nobody through the second, as now Contador relying heavily on his team. The pace currently being set by Chris Angus Sorensen, followed by Nicky Sorensen. 2 strong Danes here pulling along, and dare I say, they're bringing the bacon home.
They certainly are bringing the bacon home this afternoon. As we look a little bit further back, this is the time check for Team Vacances Soleil. They're not a great team time trial squad. They're going to lose themselves a huge chunk of time. Some people said by the shortening of the team time trial here this afternoon, Phil, we would not get very big time gaps, but after the first time check, this team has lost almost half a minute.
Yes, and they'll fall further away, I think. This is a scorcher done by Saxo Bank. It really is. This is Vacances Soleil, who now go under that check. And another man is yo-yoing, Matteo Tessato. We are 1 kilometer to go for the first team out, the team of Alberto Contador. And Matteo Tessato, the Italian, is yo-yoing off the back, leaving just 5 men in front of him. They've got to finish 5 men, because the clock stops on the 5th.
Well, Matteo Tessato is a big, strong bike rider when it comes to leading out sprints. He's moved himself across to Team Saxo Bank now to be part of this. He's just tailing off the back, but he cannot give up. He's got to make sure he keeps going as fast as he can, because if anything happens to one of the riders in that little group of 5 just in front of him, that could change the overall time at the end of the day.
Well, these beautiful towns are great for the tourists, and Les Essarts is no exception, but look at the way these narrow streets twist and turn. Very difficult to do in big formation like this, as you try to hang on here to the flying man up front, which I think is Chris Angus Sorensen. As they now, remember, the clock will search the 5th man. They're not worried about Tessato on the back.
Well, it looks like Richie Port now is going to lead him up to the line there for Team Saxo Bank. Right on his wheel is Alberto Contador. Contador may be riding himself back into the Tour de France today. One thing's for certain, Phil, it's going to be the first best time.
It's going to be the best time when they get there. Will it survive the day? Will Contador recoup a little bit of time he lost yesterday on the way to the finish on the Montes Alouettes? There he hits the line. Clock stops on the 5th man. 25 minutes, 16 seconds. That is certainly the time to beat. Well, Paul, 25:16 for 23 kilometers. That is incredible.
It was a phenomenal performance, but they had to take that risk. They had to go out very quickly. They didn't have anything to work themselves out on. They had no other teams in front of them, no time checks to gauge themselves, so they had to go full bore around this 23-kilometer course, and that's around about 13 miles.
Well, if you look at Vacances Soleil here, the team from Spain, Euskaltel Euskadi, has gone through 38 seconds slower at the 16-kilometer, 10-mile checkpoint at Saxo Bank. So they're not doing a bad ride in Pro Rata. We're understanding that the team isn't a great team time trial squad, comparing that with Saxo Bank. What a wonderful crowd here enjoying it. We're now in the area of Les Essarts, and it is a beautiful zone here, the Vendée, and the crowd have done the race justice this past 2 days for sure. Just looking here now at the rear of the team from Vacances Soleil. They had a man in the breakaway all day yesterday. Well appreciated it was too. This is Euskaltel Euskadi. The next time check for them will be the finishing time. Already home, 25 minutes 16 for Saxo Bank. We're starting just by the beautiful church in the centre of town there, and the finishing line is to the left of that church, uphill but with a tailwind. We are underway, and the big teams know now what they've got to do, and it's a pretty good time to beat.
We didn't.
Well, before we go back to the Tour de France, let's have a look at the American standings after stage one, brought to us by USA Cycling. And Chris Horn, you can see he had a great ride yesterday to finish in 9th. So too TJ Van Garderen. It's time, not placings, that matter. These boys are all the same time. Leipheimer, Hincapie. Tommy D, well, he had a bit of problem with getting slow by that crash. He lost nearly 2 minutes along with Christian van der Velde also. Brent Buchwalter in his second tour, 2:33. But there's time for them to recover. But big time gaps back to Dave Zabriskie there. Remember that Zabriskie, of course, is going to help the Garmin-Cervelo team today. So just looking here now at AG2R with Nicholas Roach, really the leader of this team, the Irishman. It was Dan Stephen who won the Tour de France back in 1987. Big pressure for Nicholas now because he is showing great ability in this race. And, well, you never know how it might turn around for him in the next couple of years as he gets stronger. They're looking pretty good in the team time trial right now. They've gone through the first check and they've pushed Vacansoleil down to 4th, so they're slotted in 3rd place with 9 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yeah, Nicholas Roach, he looked pretty good in the Tour de France, cracked a bit in the last week of last year's Tour de France, but at the end of the year, he came out with a fine performance in the Vuelta of España with a 7th place overall.
So just waiting now to see the arrival of Euskaltel. Here we are. They're back into the streets of Les Essarts through the twists and turns of this beautiful little town. 25 minutes and 16. When that goes by, that was the time set by Saxo Bank.
We also noticed that they're also down to just 6 riders. They've left a few men out on the course. If you're wondering what those little boxes are on their back, well, those are the radio transmitters, and the team managers are able to give them up-to-date information of what the race is going to be like, and also to warn them of any dangerous corners that might be upcoming. And this part of the course here we're coming into town is rather sketchy.
It certainly is. They were 38 seconds behind Saxo at the 16-kilometre 10-mile check. So approximately 5 miles further down the road, or 8 kilometres. We'll see just how much more time they've lost, because they will continue to lose time. That was a scorching ride, first out of the house by Saxo Bank for sure. They had to do it, and maybe Alberto Contador will get a little bit of the time he lost yesterday in that crash on the approach to the finishing line. Grim is here. It's Sammy Sanchez that they want this time for, the Olympic champion, who can also climb well. As they sprint up to the line, they've slipped a long way behind the 25.16 of Saxo Bank, because they hit the line 26 minutes and 10 seconds for Euskaltel Euskadi. Well, that 26 10 seconds for them is not quite as good a time as I thought, because they really seem to lose a lot more of the time in that last few kilometres, even though they got a tailwind up to the finish. All right, well, you can see all those fancy helmets. Well, many of those helmets are provided by Giro, and we now have Robbie Ventura to tell us more about these team time trial helmets.
In my career as a sprinter, I never had much use for an aero helmet. But one thing is for sure, the technology that goes into these things have come a long way. And Giro, and Mark Reedy here, has been a pioneer in terms of designing these beautiful helmets. Tell us about this new one.
That's right, Robbie. Giro's been working with the best riders in the world for over 25 years. And they develop helmets that shave precious seconds in a race like the Tour de France, which can make all the difference.
This thing looks like it gets really, really hot. Have you guys addressed kind of keeping these riders cool during a time trial, or doesn't that matter?
Well, definitely heat matters, and we've addressed it in a really unique way. And that way was developed at a facility called the Dome, which is Giro's development center in Scotts Valley. This helmet pulls air over the lens, through these channels inside, and then out the vents that exist in the back.
That's pretty cool. And obviously, to make these helmets fast, they can't have a lot of ventilation on top. Is that correct?
Well, we found that that's the best way, for sure.
And one thing about cyclists is everybody's back is a little bit different. How have you guys addressed kind of making sure this is aerodynamic for every rider?
The Selector has a really unique feature that no other helmet has, and that's the ability to snap off this bottom piece and snap it back on. And there's different heights of this, so it can conform to the rider's back. If you have a more upright position, you can use less. If you have a flatter back, you can use more. And the helmet will sit right up against your shoulder blades, and that makes it ultra aerodynamic.
So helmets like this save these athletes seconds, not minutes. But in the Tour de France, seconds could be the difference between winning and losing.
3,
Thanks very much, Robbie and Mark. Now we're on the start line. Rabobank about to depart. Remember, their man for Tour victory, their work for today is Robert Gesink. He is number 41. He's had some good tours. He also had some bad tours. He fell off on the road to La Grande Motte a couple of years ago and broke his wrist. But he's back, and he really is a likely candidate once we go down to the mountains. So today for them is extremely important indeed. And they've got some strong men in there. And Rabobank, dare I say, is having a tremendous season this year. They've risen to #1 in the rankings. So, as the rides continue, no more news. Vacances is to the first check. They're in 4th. They've moved on. They're in 3rd at the second check. We'll take another break and rejoin us in the team time trial. Now remember, make sure to sign up for our Travelers Fantasy Cycling Challenge. You have until stage 4 to figure out your roster, and following that, the official game phase will start. You log on to nbcsports.com/challenge for the chance to win a grand prize trip to next year's tour. And if you win today's stage, you'll receive a Le Mans Fitness Revolution, as used by the team Garmin Cervelo. So on board there to nbcsports.com/challenge. Here we are, flying into town now. Quite a lot of riders left on this squad. This is a Vacances who are coming in now. It's not going to be best time, but they're battling for a good one. Well, they really are working hard now, Paul. 25.43 and counting. Saxo Bank unchallenged at 25.16, but they could be finishing with the second best time for the moment.
Well, they're trying to do what they can. It's a tough day, you know. You think about it, you think 23 kilometers, it's almost a day off for these guys, but the day is a long day as they stop the clock there, as you say, with a fairly good time. Second for them, 26.03, but it's the time gaps that are more important, Phil. 47 seconds lost.
Yes, indeed, and that's 47 seconds Alberto Contador gained in any one of these riders who finished ahead of him yesterday in that front group. They were behind Euskaltel at the first check, but they got over them at the second check by just 1 second, and they've moved well clear of them in that third sector of the course. This is AG2R here, who won a good time to give Nicolas Roche a good run around France over the next 3 weeks, with a brief incursion into Italy as well.
Well, this team lost themselves at 16 seconds over the first 9 kilometers of the race, then lost themselves a further 10 seconds over the next kilometers. So they've actually handled the middle section of the course fairly well. Looking at the flags there, you can see just how grippy this is, and what is unfortunate for the riders, they can go flat out for the first 15 kilometers, because the last run in towards the finishing line, they pick up a tailwind and push speeds to 40-42 miles an hour to finish off with.
They're actually going quicker, you know, AG2R. Their second best time there, as we move on to the start line for Française des Jeux, FDJ, as it is known. Watch out for surprise there from AG2R. They're getting closer to Saxo Bank at the time checks. They're in the last 6 kilometers of the day for them. Chance to see the aerodynamic bikes here. These bikes slice through the air here, as do the aerodynamic helmets they all wear. It's all about speed, and very, very much a technical man's sport now.
It is, and the difficult thing about these time trial bikes is they are, as you say, built for speed and built for aerodynamics, and they're not very maneuverable, which is why we very often see a lot of incidents and accidents in the team time trial, because the riders are trying to go around these corners at 50-55 kilometers an hour, 30 miles an hour, and these bikes are just not designed for that. They're designed to go fast in a straight line.
Well, we saw Jeremy Roy, number 138, if he goes past your Camerlins in the breakaway all day yesterday. They don't have a candidate to win the race overall. Sandy Cassar carries the team captain's number of 131. He's looking for stage wins. He's had a couple in his career, and there are quite a few opportunists in this team. So they'll just want to live with the riders today. They're not going to worry over much about where they finish. That's my opinion anyway.
Well, it's all tricky over the first couple of kilometers as they make their way out of the small town of Les Essarts, and it's also pretty tricky on the way back in. But once they're out on the open road, this is a very good testing team time trial route. The riders can use the power of the team to keep themselves. But you see how precarious they are going around those corners. That's because the machines that they're on are not very good at going around corners. But once you get them up to speed in a straight line, they are magnificent.
Yes, and just struggling to catch up with the rest of the riders at the moment is the first time in the race, Arnold Janson. So he's one of 3 first-timers in the Tour for Française des Jeux. The other is Arthur Vichot and Gianni Meersman of Belgium. But they look as though they get themselves organised. This is Rabobank 2. We expect to see a good time from Rabobank. They're the next team due. They're the next team due now at the 9-kilometre checkpoint here.
Well, this is a well-drilled squad, one of the squads that have spent a lot of time and money to practice this discipline throughout the year, because they realise, as many of the team managers said, I've talked to them about how important today was. They said this is not the most important day of the Tour de France, Phil. This is probably the most important day of the whole year for some of these riders.
Absolutely right. The rider in the different colours, by the way, is the new champion of Spain. That was the jersey of Alberto Contador, but not this year now, because it's Luis Leon Sanchez, the Spanish rider on this Dutch team. Now, we expect this time to be good, and the time we're looking at of Saxo Bank is 9:13. They're in target here. Now, this will be a bit of a shock if they get over the time, but you know, they're going to be very, very close to Saxo Bank, which looked absolutely superb. But these are Dutch cyclists, basically, where the wind blows forever, the roads are flat, and they love this sort of a bike race. It is going to be close.
It's very close, and they have gone inside almost 3 seconds faster than the team of Saxo Bank. So Saxo Bank now getting pushed down into second position. But Phil, as you've said, it's the next part of the course where is the indication of how well a team is going to ride.
Well, I have to say that is a terrific ride by Rabobank. Just what are the other teams going to do? 9 kilometres in 9 minutes and 10 seconds is absolutely going off the radar. Now, they'll know now what they've done. The team manager will have told them that they're on best time. They're going to be inspired by this. And in fact, it looks as though Lars Bohm, a cyclo-cross, that's a cross-country world champion on the bike in the past, is going to have to work hard to hold on to the tail of the race just now.
But what you notice, Phil, is they've still got a full complement of riders. They've still got all 9 riders present in this group, and when you see them in a straight piece of road, they're in a perfect line. Every rider is taking advantage of the slipstream of the rider in front of him, using that moment that he's on the wheel of the rider in front to try and recuperate before he hurts himself again when he gets to the front and sets the pace.
I remember at this stage earlier on, when Saxo Bank got to this point, they had 2 members of the team in trouble with the high-speed start. Let's go back to the kilometre to go. AG2R now, they've been steadily improving since they started. They were behind Saxo Bank at the 2 checks, but closing in all of the time. Have they held up the progress in this last few kilometres of the day as they swing off around this corner? And let's see how they go now, because it's difficult to keep on the pressure and catch wheels on these narrow streets. This is going to be good.
It is a good time, and again, it's the important thing of what I said earlier, Phil. You've got to try and keep as many riders with you for as long as possible, because when you start to weaken, when you start to tire in the last 4 or 5 kilometres, having an extra pair of legs there can gain you a few more seconds, and that could be valuable. It's going to be very, very tight on the line.
Well, they're coming off that bottom bend. Biel Kadri is up there too. They've got a split here. Well, don't bother racing away, boys. The clock doesn't stop till the 5th man in this line, so they may as well ease up and let them rejoin. Here's the race for the line. Well, the best time has just slipped away, but they're going to drop in, I think, for the moment at least, to the second best time. The best time of 25:16 has gone. The second best time is 26:03, and they'll well beat that. So it's been good, steady progress for Team AG2R as the leaders here make sure the 5th man is tucked in nicely. They hit the line. Their time for them is 25:41, second for the moment.
But I think what it indicates, Phil, is the fact that Team Saxo Bank went out extremely fast. They eliminated very quickly 3 riders, and that speed and elimination of 3 riders may well pay against them when we get down to the last end of the race.
Oh, looking here now at Française de Jeu, looking a very, very nice 9-man squad here. Now let's see if we can have a pull back here. They're heading to the first check. They're approximately halfway, slightly more, to the 9-kilometre first check. Best time remains as at Rabobank, who've just gone through ahead of them. Just gone through ahead of them with a 9-minute 10-second. FDJ racing for that at the moment. Sayur has just gone through, and they're only 4th. Equal 4th, in fact. I can't believe that, but they've given them the same time as Vacansoleil, 17 minutes and 40 seconds for Sayur at the second check, so they're equal 4th there.
I think to note, today about the team time trial, Phil, is what's going to be extremely important is the first team to get to the finish line will probably inherit the overall leader's jersey, because the whole of the race at the moment is really very much only separated by about 6 seconds.
Well, is this the team rewriting the leaderboard at the moment? As we look at Rabobank, Saxo Bank have been bettered at the first check. Can they keep it up? Liquigas get ready, and so too does this man. This is Jonathan Waters. Garmin Cervelo will be up in a few minutes' time. Let's begin with a question. Do you want a chance to ride against the pros in a Tour de France stage? Now you can enter for a chance to win in the Aquafall Tour Challenge. Each day you ride during the tour, you'll be entered for a chance to win great prizes. Sign up today at mapmyride.com/TDF. And can you ride as fast as the boys in the team time trial today? Let's have a look at the situation at the finish. These four teams are all that's come in at the moment. Saxo Bank with Alberto Contador in with the best time. They were first team out, 25.16. AG2R at 25 seconds. Vacansoleil at 47. And Euskaltel there at 54 seconds. We're rejoined out on the highway now. This is Française des Jeux. And they've actually gone through the first check in third best time of 9 minutes and 21 seconds. Catching up now with the Liquigas Cannondale squad out here on the road. They're the team in support of Ivan Basso. And much there he is, number 91. We're a little bit unsure of just what his form is, Paul. He had a bit of he left out his major tour, the Giro d'Italia this year. Then he crashed in training in the mountains for this Tour de France. And I'm not sure he knows himself just how well he's going to go yet.
Well, he started off the year with a pretty good victory in the Grand Prix of Lugano, but everything seemed to go wrong after that, and he pulled himself up to try and concentrate on the Tour de France. And he keeps talking a positive game, but in fact he had a very nasty training crash partway through the year, which really disturbed his preparation for the middle part of the season. And I have to say he was not looking all that comfortable when he recently rode the Critérium du Dauphiné.
Paul, at the moment, Rabobank, and we didn't see them, have gone through the 16-kilometre check with the best time, but really close to Saxo. They are still 3 seconds apart. They were 3 seconds quicker than Saxo at the first check, 3 at the second, and this is now the arrival of the Sojasan team.
Yes, Sojasan, they're coming up to the finish line. They're not going to challenge the top end of the leaderboard. The time to beat on the finishing line is still Saxo Bank, but I think that is a time that's starting to crumble a fraction. 25.16 is the time to beat. This team, which is one of the wildcard teams selected for the Tour de France, I think will be pretty pleased with their performance.
So they hit the line now, and the clock is stopped at 25.50, a third best time for this French wildcard team, and you can't complain at that. That is a very, very good ride for them. 25 minutes and 50 seconds. And so they are in, and the best time out on course with the finish line just ahead now is Rabobank. He will catch up with them now. They're 5 kilometres out. That's 3 miles still to race. And they're 3 seconds. They've been locked at 3 seconds quicker than Saxo over the last 17 kilometres. We're looking at Robert Hessing at the moment. Is this the team that's upsetting the Saxo Bank apple cart? One bank versus the other, because this is Rabobank. They are 3 seconds ahead of Saxo at the first check. They are 3 seconds ahead of Saxo at the second check. In just on 2.5 miles, about 4 kilometres, we will know whether they've beaten the Saxo Bank.
Well, we're talking about banked. It all depends how much they've got left in the bank.
It depends how much deposit you've left on the road, I suspect.
Absolutely, and at the moment they are on the advantage because they've still got 9 riders in that group.
Back to the start line now as we watch here the 9th team to go. This is the Garmin Cervelo team. They've left 2 very good long-term prospects off this team, helpers on the squad, to pick the squad that can ride a great team time trial as well as defend for a likely win in this race. And so now we'll see if the gamble has paid off. Wearing number 51 there in the polka dot jersey is the world champion Thor Hushovd. He didn't win yesterday, but he was third, and he gets the jersey which is owned at the moment by the winner of yesterday, Philippe Gilbert. But he will ride in yellow. Last team to go. Now, big moments this ball.
Phil, I really have a gut feeling that this team, Garmin Cervelo, have brought their team, the mixture of this team, to the Tour de France this year with one thought in mind, and that was to actually win this particular stage. That's why the composition of the team is such as it is.
Well, it will affect the overall, of course, the time today, but it's always on the fifth man. This is a team time trial, so you've got to always look where that fifth man is. There's no good leaving him behind. Now they quickly get into a very, very good rhythm here. They've got to. There's some surprises already out on course.
The experienced Julian Dean was the man leading away Garmin Cervelo here, and he's the man who knows exactly how to ride the Tour de France. He's ridden many, many times before. They've got the powerhouse, the incredible individual time trialist, Dave Zabriskie.
Well, Tommy Danielson gets in his first tour here. He's a strong man. Christian van der Velde is also the man I think we expect for the leader. David Miller also riding very, very well, the Scot. And if we get into the situation of winning today, Thor Hushoff, the world champion, will pull on the next Maillot Jaune, because he only needs to beat the Omega Pharma Lotto team by 6 seconds to claim yellow tonight. They'll ride with all of this in mind. Of course they will.
I tell you what, Phil, this is the first chance we've had a real chance to study their new jersey. Their jersey's been pretty much predominantly black and white leading up to the start of this year's Tour de France. They decided to change and go back to the old Argyle because, of course, everybody's fearing the Argyle attack.
Absolutely, and I think it's much nicer. Meanwhile, Rabobank burning up the road. Are they holding on to that 3-second advantage they've had now for 19 kilometres? Les Essarts, the town board says, we're now into the tricky section here where you go into the narrow streets, and a real test for a team time trial formation, especially at the speed these guys are riding, because we are looking now at around about 50 to 54 kilometres an hour.
You might not have noticed, but the body of Robert Hessing just at the back there was really struggling to stay in contact with these guys. He's number 41 there. He's much more at home on the big mountain passes of the Pyrenees and the Alps, but he, as the leader of the squad, has to stay in contact with this group because he wants to gain as much time as possible against all of the other rivals that he's got for the overall victory at the Tour de France, which is still 4 Sundays away.
Well, we're looking here at Liquigas now as they are heading up to the first checkpoint. So there's the time of 9:10. They're not too far away, but they're not going to approach the best time so far. As they now look at Saxo Bank's time, that slips away as well. And this is going to be a bit of a disappointment for Ivan Basso. Is hoping to podium by the end of the Tour de France in 3 weeks' time. And they've just come in there ahead of Euskaltel Euskadi. 4th best time, 9:23 at the check for Liquigas.
So Liquigas, I think they will be trying to ride themselves into the last part of the race. Fairly shortly, we should be seeing the arrival of Team Rabobank at the finish line. They are now going inside of the final kilometres, and the final kilometre, I should say, and this is looking like a very good time. They should have the best time with no problem at all.
Well, it's that's yo-yoing off the back is the former champion of Spain, Juan Manuel Golate, who won on Mont Ventoux. He knows, though, as long as there's 5 riders in front of him, that'll be the time for the team, and he will sense by the speed of this race they must be running close to best time. They're looking to beat 25:16, and they're going to have to go because that clock is running on. They've got over a minute, though. It should be enough because they're inside a kilometre to go. They have really picked this up, Paul, in the last 5 miles, 8 kilometres.
And again, Phil, it's because of the fact that they've kept as many riders as possible in the group for the final few kilometres. It's strength in numbers. When everybody starts to get tired, you can take shorter turns. You can look over to your mate to ride a little bit longer on the front end of the main field. This is going to be a brand new best time.
This is a huge boost for Robert Hessig for sure now, because he's gaining more time over Alberto Contador, because they're going to beat Contador's team. That team was 25 minutes and 16 seconds. Look at this. They have really whooped it over this last few kilometres of the race, and they know it the way the sprinters are packed. They hit the line. The 5th man stops it. 25 minutes dead. So they've gained 16 seconds for guessing over Alberto Contador. And you know, every second counts.
It certainly does. Look at the faces of those riders, and that you can interpret into the pain that they have gone through to put out this incredible time. 25 minutes it's taken them out on the course this afternoon, but still, Phil, we've got the big teams left out on the road.
Back now with Française de Jeu here. As we look here at Française de Jeu, they've just gone through, continuing with the 3rd best time at the 2nd check behind Rabobank and Saxo Bank. But we have a new best time now at the finishing line. Rabobank really have set a time that the teams to follow have got to match or pretty close to that. Let's quickly pop into the team car. John the Vorter's Garmin Cervelo.
Good job, Tyler. Good job, good job, good job. Perfect, Tyler. Come on.
But he's saying good job, Tyler, there. So that's Tyler Farrer, who is...
Tyler. There you go.
So one presumes at the moment that Tyler Farrer, the sprinter on the team, who scored well in the halfway stage yesterday, is driving there just in front of Big Tor Hushoft in the polka dot jersey. Now it's important. We haven't got a check for them yet. They're approaching the first check of the day. So Hushoft goes through now with the Garmin Cervelo. We call him the God of Thunder. He was the start of the presentation when he came out of the ground with an axe and dreadlocks off. Now let's see, this will be the first check for them now, and it's Hushoft driving them on, and this is looking extremely quick, Paul. Rabobank have gone through in 9:10. I think we might be seeing this if they come up towards the line with a best time. Now, is it going to be a best time for Garmin Cervelo? The clock is still ticking towards the point. Rabobank, I think, have set a very high mark. Well, it's just gone up. The bar has gone up to 9:03 now. Garmin Cervelo will know what they're doing. The heads are turning. Don't slow down now.
Well, the thing to remember, Phil, is if we wake up the winning team here, Team Garmin Cervelo, at the end of the day, Tor Hushoft, the man on the front there in that polka dot jersey, will endoss the overall leader's jersey. But this is a bit of a problem here, because Julian Dean, the man who started the action, led them out of Les Essarts. He's just popped.
Well, he's going to have to be left. He's a sprint lead-out man. He's not a man that will be required. All he's got to do is get home inside the time limit, which will be based on the time of the team today. It's 30% slower, and you're out of the Tour de France. So he can't sit up and look at the countryside. He's got to keep on going for the next 14 kilometres on his own. They won't wait for him now, because they know they're setting the best time.
No, they certainly won't. Sitting on the back, number 59. That's a man they'll count on an awful lot down towards the end. Dave Zabriskie. Zabriskie, the time trial champion of the United States.
I wonder if we can hear into Team Garmin's car and what they've got to say about that. There's only the 1 kilometre to go here for Française des Jeux. They're just trying to regain contact with Garmin Cervelo. As we see now, they're coming down towards the finish. They've been getting better and better, Team FDJ. They went from 4th at the first check to 3rd at the second check. Only Saxo and Rabobank are bettering them, so let's see what they can do next. They've also got that Sandy Cassar at the back. So as they come down now towards the finish here, I think this might be a surprise. We're looking at the time of Saxo 25:16. And it's got 16 seconds to make it. They're just checking where that 5th man is. No good sprinting without him. Keep him in there. I don't think they'll get to Saxo Bank, but they've been getting better every time they've gone through the time checks. It's just going to be outside of Saxo Bank's time, but they're going to hold 3rd place here at the finish. And that's a good team time trial by FDJ, Française des Jeux. As they sprint up towards the line, the time of Saxo Bank has slipped away. It'll be 3rd at the moment when they stop the clock with 25:34 is the time into 3rd for Française des Jeux. Well, everybody's still buzzing here at the commentary box now with that terrific time by Garmin Cervelo. 9 minutes 3 seconds, the best time by 10 seconds over Saxo Bank and by 7 seconds over Rabobank. The gauntlet has gone down and the bar has gone higher. And we've got 10 teams out on the road. See you in a moment.
Do you want a promotion?
Well, we're looking at Garmin Cervelo now. They've really ripped the tar up as they head through that first check, where they still remain as best time in 9 minutes and 3 seconds for 9 kilometres. We're waiting now as they approach the second check. Might be a good time to go inside that Garmin car and just see if John Lavortis is saying anything to the riders.
Tyler, after Zabriskie. Tyler, after Zabriskie. Let's get ready to bring it home hard, Tyler.
Oh, boy, I would hate to hear that in my ear when I'm already going flat out, but that was to Tyler Farrer saying, go with Dave Zabriskie and give it your best shot. Here we are with a Europe car now. They've not reached the first check yet. We've had 9 teams through that first check, and Team Garmin-Cervelo has set the new mark of 9 minutes 3 seconds. We're looking at Teams Quick Step now, the 11th team to get underway here. Well, Christophe Kern still showing us his new colours of champion of France on the front here.
Well, they've gone outside of the best time, which was set by Team Garmin-Cervelo at this point, but it's not a shabby ride here by Team Europcar. Obviously motivated, Phil, by the fact that they're pretty much racing on home turf.
Yes, they've got to give off their best performance here. This is their chance to show their public here in this sector of France, and they've gone through there with the 6th best time of 9:24. That's 6 of 10 teams to pass through that point. That's not bad.
Just looking at the average speeds, Phil, I was thinking that the time of Discovery Channel, which they set back in 2005, the fastest average speed of a team time trial at 57 kilometers an hour was not going to be touched. But at 9 kilometers covered, the first time check, Team Garmin-Cervelo have gone through at 59.5 kilometers an hour.
It is unbelievable, that sort of speed on the highway with the wind blowing in every direction today. It's a tailwind finish, if that's any consolation to the squads. And in fact, Garmin-Cervelo cannot be that far away now from the important check. In fact, they haven't shown us go through. Look at the computer. They have gone through in 16 minutes and 45 seconds, 13 faster than Rabobank. So the story continues for Garmin-Cervelo. Best time at the second check, 16:45. Sorry we couldn't show you it happening.
Well, we can show you them now because they are still looking very well organized. They know exactly what they had to do. They seriously, Phil, want to win this race this afternoon. It's in the guts.
Well, as they continue on here, 6 kilometers to the arrivée, the finishing line for these boys, and they are ripping up the road again. Now, I thought Saxo looked good. I thought Rabobank looked better. Now, Garmin are absolutely flying. Let's check in the car again, see what Jonathan's saying.
After rider, Ramones. Up, Ramones. There you go. Perfect. Stay on the wheel, Ramones. Good job.
He always amazes me, Jonathan. He doesn't get excited, does he? He's just shouting clear, concise information to his riders to keep the pressure on. This is the arrival of Liquigas Cannondale. Again, always the anxious look. How many's left behind? Well, they've lost a couple, but they've still got enough to qualify with the 5-man here. As they come home, Liquigas have been steadily improving throughout. So they were 5th at the last check. They were being pushed down by Garmin. They were 4th, so Garmin just went through there. So are they going to set what will be the 4th best time if they continue to hold it at the finish line? And as they come up, they're in 25:45. In fact, they've dropped away there to 5th place. So Garmin will push them down further when they come home. And that is Ivan Basso's team, so it's not a great result for them. Here we go, 5 kilometers to go for Garmin-Cervelo now. The polka dot jersey of the world champion Torhushoft, who took the first world championship road race to be held in Australia last October. He's been the first Norwegian cyclist to win the green jersey in the Tour de France. And as Paul Sherwin told us earlier, he's now the first Norwegian cyclist to wear the King of the Mountains jersey without scoring a single point.
Yeah, but he's not thinking about that. He doesn't care at all this afternoon because he's hoping that he can change his World Champions jersey into the polka dot jersey, and at the end of today's stage into a yellow jersey.
But past all the campus here now as they continue again, as they are looking so quick. Let's have a look again in the car cam.
Come on, Ramones. There you go. Stay on there. Come on, Ramones. Come on, Ramones. Come on, Ramones. Come on. On the wheel, Ramones. Come on, Tommy D. After rider, Tommy D. After rider, Tommy D.
A rider, by the way, doesn't mean cyclist in this case. It means rider Hejerdal, a Canadian rider there. But, well, he must be listening to our commentary. Now he's getting excited. Anyway, they're on a great ride. Back to the start line. Let's see. We've seen Quickstep. This must be Movistar on the start line now. And there they are. They have a lot of motivation, Movistar, because the man who should have been on this team, Xavier Tondo, tragically and unbelievable, was going training, and he went to get his bike out of the garage while his teammate waited for him. The garage door fell on his head, and as a result he was killed. And now in the Tour de Suisse, Juan Mauricio Soler had an incredible crash and is still very, very seriously ill. It's really an incredibly sad tale for a brand new team.
He still is in an induced coma at the moment, and the doctors actually said, Phil, that his injuries were about the same as falling out of a 4th floor apartment building. It was that bad.
And he bounced off traffic furniture in the Tour de Suisse and then ricocheted off a spectator. Amongst the injuries were 8 broken ribs. Originally it was 4 that was reported: a fractured skull, a broken ankle, a punctured lung, a lacerated liver. It sounds absolutely horrendous. Anyway, this team's got to pull all that behind them now and get on with the job in hand. They've lost 2 of the strongest men from this team before the Tour even got underway, and that will win a lot of sympathy from the public as we move around France.
Well, they do, however, let's not forget, have the Spanish national champion in their midst, and I have to say that Jose Joaquim Rojas finished 4th on the stage yesterday, so if this team puts in a sterling performance and they win the team time trial, he could be the new wearer of the yellow jersey at the end of the day.
Well, with or without the strong men we've mentioned, it's unlikely this team is going to challenge the likes of Garmin-Cervelo today. Garmin-Cervelo, and remember that behind that we've got the Sky team. We rate them very, very much. HTC High Road are hot today. Leopard Trek hot today. Who knows what Amiga with Philippe Gilbert in yellow can do, or the team of Cadel Evans, the American BMC squad.
Well, I'm having a quick look here, Phil, and a quick head count is showing that there are only 6 riders now left in this Garmin-Cervelo squad, so they now have decided they're going to leave anybody behind who's dropped off the back end of the pace. Now, that could go against them in this latter part of the course, because Rabobank finished with all 9 riders, but they're 13 seconds ahead at the second time check, and they're going extremely fast. And the men they've got left are the nucleus of Garmin-Cervelo, the strong men at 2 kilometres to go. And
that's what's important, the 2 kilometres to go. Tommy Danielson is still there. He's just tacked on to the back of the string at the moment as Hushoff comes down. The other man is Christian van der Velde, a previous 4th place finisher in Paris in the Tour, and a man from Illinois, and lost time yesterday, so they need a good time to bring him back into this race.
If they keep up the speed that they are producing at the moment, my computer here has just thrown up a fact that they may well stop the clock at around about 24 minutes and 40 seconds. That would be a new best time by around about 20 seconds.
I thought you were about to say your computer had blown up, to be quite honest, because they are absolutely flying right now. This is Quick Step coming to the first checkpoint. Again, we expect a reasonable time for this team, and it looks as though it might be one, but they're slowly dropping off the podium positions. Saxo Bank is also quicker than them now, and the France des Jeux might be just endangered here. Yes, they are. 9:18 for Quick Step.
It's a good ride by Quick Step because they've never been renowned in the past for their performances in the team time trial. But here, I think everybody, Phil, is inspired by the fact that most riders know if they get themselves the victory in this stage today, they get themselves the overall leader's jersey. Inside of a kilometre to go now for Garmin-Cervelo, and it should be a new best time.
Well, this is a very important time for Garmin-Cervelo. As I said earlier, they left a couple of good boys off this squad to concentrate on a ride of note in the team time trial. So far, so good. Now they've got to produce the time that will the rest of the team still to follow finish with better than, and it may not happen for the others because this is extremely good. Dave Zabriskie has done his turn in the front. He slowly drops down. Thor Hushoff, the god of thunder, the world champion, is bringing them home. Now they want Thor Hushoff to cross the line in first place. The time is taken on the 5th man. Hushoff wants the yellow jersey tonight, and if this is the winning time and they beat Omega Pharma Lotto by just 6 seconds, then it will be yellow for Thor Hushoff, and Garmin will be on top of the world, and that's why the world champion drives this team time trial to its finish now. He must know this is going to be one heck of a time as they come up towards the line now. The time to beat 25 minutes dead. They have annihilated 24 minutes and 48 seconds. The clock has stopped.
Well, you could just see the power of Thor Hushoff over those last 500 metres. He in fact had to slow down and wait for the rest of the guys because it's the time of the 5th man, which is the most important. Good to see Van der Velde in there. Good to see Tommy Danielson in there too. That now has set the bar extremely high.
Well, I wonder if anybody can match that, but that we know there are at least 3 teams in the race who can match that sort of quality of ride. So, as they always say, time will tell. Now, this is back to Europe car here as they continue fairly modestly at the moment towards the checkpoints. They've gone through in 7th place in the first check at 9:24, and they've gone through the second check. They've moved up into 6th place now, 17:24. Now, come on, John, give us a smile. Is he going to be reacting? No, he's that guy's a calm guy. We look down on the town of Les Essarts. There's the little gaggle of cars down there. They were starting down there and racing to the left of our picture out of the start house. So, as we go towards another break, the good news is on top of the world now is Garmin-Cervelo, 12 seconds quicker than Rabobank and 28 seconds of Saxo Bank. We'll be back.
You can.
Now, come on, everybody, make sure you're playing the iZod race for the podium sweepstakes. All you do is you log on to NBCsports.com/podium every day during the race for your chance to win a trip for 2 to next year's Tour de France and a Cervelo S5 bicycle. You can also win a clean bottle open at both ends and a Giro helmet. Today's code word is aerodynamic. Well, it's all happening out there, but you haven't missed anything while you've been away. A team at Garmin-Cervelo have whipped up the course to a frenzy, 24:48 at the finish. And we just caught a glimpse there of Europe car. They're way off the pace in 6th place, losing at the moment the best part of 40 seconds to Garmin-Cervelo at the second check. Now looking down at Quick Step as we quickly move to Movistar coming through to the first checkpoint. Well, Rabobank got passed through. It's not a bad drive. Movistar staying in touch, Paul, here, but they have a little bit of a way to go, but it's not too shabby, this one.
No, not too bad at all. The fastest time at this point was set, of course, by Team Garmin-Cervelo, 9:03. They've just gone through Movistar there, losing themselves 20 seconds. But I'm looking at the last part of this course being the most definitive part of the race here this afternoon, because once they get into the last part of the race, if you've got a lot of riders left, you've got that little bit of extra firepower.
Well, Garmin-Cervelo, they shed a couple, but they certainly produced the time. At least that's what we think, but we'll get some better idea when Team Sky get out on the road. We're waiting for the start at the moment of the Katusha team, and then it will be Team Sky. But at the finishing line, it is still Garmin-Cervelo, 11 seconds quicker than Rabobank. Those are real times, Paul, so that means that somebody like Robert Gessing loses 11 seconds to the top riders in the Garmin team.
But I think what is important to note about today's team time trial, we've seen one of the Tour de France records drop already, and it's not definitive what the final record is going to be. But in fact, 57.5 kilometers an hour was set by Team Discovery Channel back in 2005. And I have a quick average guesstimate on the time that's been served by Team Garmin-Cervelo at 59 kilometers an hour average speed.
You know, those are the sort of speeds on the indoor velodromes that you could win a world championship in a track sprint, and you don't have all the conditions of riding outdoors. That is a very, very quick time. They've done their job, and that's all they can do. We'll see just how good it stands for them. I don't really think they have a contender for the overall, but that's going to do the morale no end of good if it is the best time. This is the local top French team who gets their ride round France away from the home crowd from tomorrow. But right now they're coming home to all the cheers as Team Europe car come in. And it's a good time too at the moment. It won't be too shabby. It should be, they should just about get in here in the top 7 times that have been recorded at the moment as they sprint towards it, constantly looking for the position of the 5th man. Christophe Kern is the new champion of France in the tricolour coloured jersey there in the middle, and as they come up towards the line, what are they going to get? They hit the line, 5th man comes in, Paul. Well, did you see they came in 5th place there, 25:38. So we've got the big teams that could challenge the time of Garmin-Cervelo. So there's one of them with their new British champion, Bradley Wiggins. They're going next out of the blocks. We'll see in a moment. Welcome back to the team time trial. This is how they stand at the moment, and Team Garmin-Cervelo has done an incredible performance today. Best time at the finish, 24:48. The big challenges to that time are about to start, Team Sky, and as you can see, Alberto Contador's team down only in third. Well, as the riders continue here to come and go, there's nobody at the moment challenging the time here of Garmin-Cervelo. They really rocked the ship, Paul, because they set the time at every check, the first check, the second check, and now they've done that performance.
But Phil, this is something that I think Jonathan Vaughters and Garmin-Cervelo have been dreaming about since the start of this season. It's their World Championships. That's the day that they have been counting down to, and I think they came out, they've done a great performance. Unfortunately for them, they've started halfway through the main field, so the other teams like Team Sky, like Team HTC High Road, and of course the other big teams down towards the MBMC Racing, they've got the times to chase.
Well, Vinokurov is bringing up his team here for Astana now. Let's see what they can do. It might be an interesting time here, but it's not going to be the time of Garmin-Cervelo, but they're certainly pretty close to it at the moment. As a Pro Team Astana, it's a long way to where we stop the clock, just around that corner. It's a very good start, 9:09 for Team Astana, as they drop into second place behind Garmin-Cervelo and push Contador's team a little bit further down there. And very shortly now, it will be Team Sky to take to the road, and there's a lot of people think that Bradley Wiggins can pull this team round to a terrific time today.
Well, there's a casualty now on board the Astana Express because the number 62, Remy de Gregorio, he's one of the climbers on this team. He can't take this pace. That pace, if you notice the average speed, Phil, after 9 kilometres was 58.5 kilometres an hour. This is an incredible start to the team time trial.
Well, I have to say, De Gregorio can climb hills, but the rest of the team, and him included now, are being blown away. This is Zates here, who has also been dispatched.
Yeah, he's the second rider to go off the back of the Astana Express here. I suppose we could call it the Astana Express because one of their team sponsors is the Kazakhstan National Railway System.
But the rest of the boys are getting on with the job in hand here. That's what they've got to do. The weak riders have done the work as best they can. They're left behind. They've got to get in and beat the time limit, which their own team will set. You can't be eliminated today if you're 30% behind your team's time.
Yep, that's the important thing. Now, quick step down to 6 riders. I make the elimination time, Phil, not very much more than about 7 minutes this afternoon, and it's so easy to lose 7 minutes, especially when you're riding on your own out in the open roads and trying to rival the speeds that's being done by these teams in the team time trial.
Well, as quick step come home here, it's going to be about the 5th or the 6th best time as they come in towards the finishing line, unless they've lost more out on this last run. I don't think we really expected them to challenge the fleetness of Garmin-Cervelo, but watch out when Team Sky get underway, because that will worry Garmin, and for sure they're down to 6 riders, despite the fact that the time is not going to be outstanding. They're already past the 3rd place on the board and slipping away. If they get around about 25-35, then they'll be dropping in around 5th place, and that's about where they will come as they ride up towards the finishing straight here. Just again, a little check of the heads. Where is that 5th man? He's got the responsibility of stopping the clock. The crowd cheer them home here, and it's gone through. So about 5th as they come up towards the line. It might even be 6th here. I think they've slowed down as they've gone out on the road. So Team Quickstep come in, and in fact at the end 25-44, only 7th at the moment.
Well, as Quickstep stop the clock there in 7th place, we can only be a couple of minutes away from the start of Team Sky Pro Cycling, and I'd have to say that would be interesting to see just exactly how those boys are going to go out on course. Team Movistar went through the first time check in 8th fastest time. They went through the second time check with the 8th fastest time, but they'd already lost themselves at 43 seconds on the fastest team there, Team Garmin-Cervelo.
Yes, I don't think we expected them to improve. Team Astana could be the next shot, because they went to 2nd best time by only 6 seconds behind Garmin-Cervelo. So if they've kept that sort of tempo up, then that might be a surprise at the 2nd check.
Well, the big problem for Team Astana is in that first 9 kilometres, they shed off 2 riders. They're down to just 7 men, and I think that is what counts in the last 10 kilometres of this event. If you've got an extra pair of legs or 2 extra pair of legs, that adds that little bit more firepower into the team.
Well, the next team to go is Team Sky, and we are moments away from getting down to the start house, I would think, because they're going to be getting pretty ready now They were chased by the Italian Lamprey squad. I think Team Sky are motivated for this today. They want a result as well. Here we are as we come to the face of Bradley Wiggins, who is the British time trial champion and, as of last week, the British road race champion. So he still wears his national colours in the time trial as well. Geraint Thomas to our right here in the white jersey as best newcomer. If they get the best time today, that white one will be yellow tonight. The pressure is on.
Well, Bradley Wiggins doesn't have to change his jersey, as you said, Phil. He's a double national time trial champion in the road race and in the time trial, but he's a very well-established rider on the track. 3 Olympic gold medals. But what about Geraint Thomas, the Welsh rider? He today will be looking at a little piece of history if he can grab himself the yellow jersey. And Boasson Hagen, too, next to Bradley Wiggins there in the red and blue jersey, champion of Norway in the individual time trial.
And suffering from shingles, apparently, which is an incredibly painful disease. So apparently he's well enough to start the Tour de France. Let's see how he goes, but he's strong. Cheers away for Team Sky then. Now, if any team can challenge the time of Garmin Cervelo, this is it. And Bradley Wiggins goes down there. Geraint Thomas leads off now. The boys in green instead of black and blue this time are underway. So let's just see now. They'll settle in quickly, and they are expert at this type of racing. These are the big danger for me for the Garmin Cervelo's time today. Quickly into an excellent all in a straight line here. No risk taken on the start. Geraint Thomas still leads them around the top bend there. Still no change at the finish either. Thor Hushovd has brought home Team Garmin Cervelo to the current best time of 24:48.
Every year, this small village hosts the biggest rock festival in France. This year, Carhaix plays host to a different breed of rock star, Contador, Schleck, Evans, headlining this summer's hottest tour.
Well, this is Movistar now approaching the finish here. They've continued to accelerate a little bit. Astana, who were challenging Garmin Cervelo at the first check, have fallen back considerably at the second check. They're now 19 seconds behind Garmin, and they've lost a couple of riders, so they made a quick start and paid for it, I think. Have Movistar made a more sedate start? Shouldn't use that word, should I really? But they've steadily improved as they've come towards the end. It won't be a new best time, but it might keep them up amongst it here. Off that sharp right-hander. Well, they look good, Paul. They're bringing home, I think, or maybe 3-6, nearly all of the riders here. But as we watch Movistar finish, Astana's fallen right off the board here. So those loss of 2 riders cost them. They've gone through there in only 4th best time at the second check. So they're no longer a danger to Garmin Cervelo at the moment. Movistar coming home now, heading for the finish at the end of 23 heart-rendering kilometres here. The 5th man, where is he? Well, he's right there. The clock stops on him, 25:57. So 10th place for Movistar at the moment.
Yes, but maybe more important, the loss of 1 minute and 9 seconds on the fastest team Garmin Cervelo, and that's what this team time trial is all about here. The man in the middle there, just looking up the clock, that was Jose Ivan Gutierrez, formerly the national champion in the time trial and the road race, as we go back here to Team Astana.
Well, our cameras, of course, and our producers work overtime now to whip around the course to bring us the images as they hit the spot. This is Astana, but they're losing ground as well as men here. They were, in fact, 6 seconds behind Garmin Cervelo. They are now 19 seconds behind Team Sky. Now everybody is on the edge of their seats to see what Team Sky can do at the first check of the day. Look at those speeds, 70 kilometers an hour at the moment, and that is this team in front of us, Sky. So as we look at Team Sky now, 70 kilometers an hour is about 44 miles an hour.
Team Pro Cycling here are trying to do what they can. They're pushing it along at an extremely high pace, and they're still looking fairly organized. You see how they're in a nice straight line. The rider at the front swings off, having done his turn. Freewheels a fraction. Boasson Hagen in the red jersey, he's just got back onto the tail of that line. He will start to recuperate, knowing that in around about 2 to 3 minutes time it's his turn to go to the front of that line one more time and set the pace. Another rider switching back.
Well, this is the Lamprey team as we move back to the start. They've just been given 30 seconds to the go. Well, there's no way these boys are going to live with Team Sky, believe me, because Sky are riding now extremely quickly. Damiano Cunego is their leader. He said he's going to lie low until he gets to the mountains and then see just how well he can climb them. He is a potential threat. He's worn the white jersey in the Tour de France in his early days as well. And he's just finished second in the Tour of Switzerland. They get the countdown now, but what we want to know is the time of Team Sky at that first check, and it is going to be a very, very quick time.
No, certainly when you're pushing speeds of 40 miles an hour in a team time trial like this, you're going to challenge the top end of the leaderboard. But Team Garmin-Cervelo went through that first time check till at around about 41 miles an hour average speed. Back then with Team Sky, it's Bradley Wiggins going to the front. And again, just to make the important note that this is not about an individual. This is about getting the best cohesive performance out of the whole team. And a lot of people regard this as a measure of the strength and depth of a team, because here on this day you are only as strong as the weakest man in your squad.
Yes, and right at the back here is Geraint Thomas, the Welshman here, who could be in yellow tonight if Team Sky produce the best time of the day, and that would be a dream come true. Bradley Wiggins, who's had a fourth in the Tour de France before in the time trial champions colours, all white there with the British red, white and blue around his chest. And now as we get 15 kilometres out from the finish, we're not far from that check.
I reckon we're around about 60 seconds away from that first time check, and that will give us an indication as to whether or not Team Sky will challenge Team Garmin-Cervelo, and that time they're looking to challenge is 9 minutes and 3 seconds. Not one of these riders so far, Phil, is missing any of the turns that he needs to do at the front end of the main field. That proves to me that they're all working fairly, working evenly to keep the pace nice and high as possible.
Well, I don't want to put a damper on it, but it looks as though they might be slightly outside the time here of Garmin-Cervelo, though they look absolutely terrific. Here they come now as they race up towards the time. It's going to be desperately close. They've got a few seconds. 9:03 is the time they're shooting at. Team Sky look very, very efficient. The riding has won here. They're going to be best time, I think, as they go round this bend. Oh, it's the wrong bend. It's the next bend they've got to go round. It is going to be desperately close as they break hard for the corner. We're talking 1 or 2 seconds, and it's going to be... Oh, it'll be rounded up. It is 1 second quicker at the moment for Team Sky.
That's Juan Antonio Fletcher from Spain on the front end of the main field. Look at that average speed, 59.7 kilometers an hour. That's 37.5 miles an hour after just 5 miles of the race. They are cohesively joined, these riders. They're working exceptionally well. So the provisional stage at the moment after 9 kilometers is Sky by 1 second from Garmin-Cervelo, and Saxo Bank losing themselves at this point 11 seconds.
Well, that is a huge start for the UK team here, and they are up for the fight now. There's no doubt about that. They're looking like their riding as one down there. There's nobody missing a drive at the front, although having said that, Paul, the helicopter's showing it. There's a little gap at the back now as 2 riders are continuing to yo-yo, and one is Xavier Zandio, their Spanish rider. At the first check, though, Sky Pro Cycling hold it over Garmin-Cervelo, and Team Astana, who were third there, are now in at the final kilometre, approaching the finish. Now they drop back to 4, and if Sky continue, they will be 5th at the second check. So let's see what they can produce here by way of a sprint. But the best time of 24:48 is still to go by, so they're coming in.
Well, Team Astana, they lost 2 men very early on. I think all of the teams who went out too rapidly and lost riders in the first 10 kilometres of the race are paying for the consequences in the latter part of this event. Well, this is not good for Sky. They've lost 2 men at a go.
2 men in one hit here, and the other one is Christian Kniest, who has been a former German road race champion, and Xavier Zandio. Well, they're not noted time trialists, and they've been blown away by the team. Now, is that going to be crucial? It'll reflect on the second check, perhaps, as Astana sprint up towards the line now. They are waiting. The time has gone by, a best time. In fact, it's moving away here now. Nonetheless, they've kept Vinokurov in a reasonable position for the moment. It's still a long way up to the line. Now, the best time, 24:48, slipping away for Pro Team Astana as they come up to the finish. So as they come up to the line, Team Astana continue to slip away here, 25:20. They held on just to 4th place, but they'll be certainly back to at least 5th when Sky come home. 25-20 there for Team Astana. Well, for the first time, we are seeing a challenge to the American team of Garmin-Cervelo. Let's hope that Sky reverse a little bit as we get towards the finish.
The 2011 Tour de France on Versus is brought to you by Clean Bottle, the bottle that unscrews at both ends for easy cleaning. Get yours at REI Performance Bikes or at cleanbottle.com. Clean Bottle, ride clean. And by Easton Cycling, the carbon fiber experts and official wheel supplier to the BMC racing team. And by Giro.
I hope you're playing the Izod race for the podium sweepstakes. You log on to NBCsports.com/podium every day during the tour. A chance to win a trip to the tour next year. Cervelo S5 bike, a clean bottle, Giro helmet, you name it. Today's code word is aerodynamic. Well, no further update at the moment. At the finishing line is Garmin-Cervelo in that terrific time of 24:48. Sky Pro Cycling at the moment is heading towards the second check with a 1 second better time at the first check over Garmin-Cervelo. These boys are warming up, still to go. In the center is Levi Leipheimer of Radio Shack. And what about HTC High Road? They've got to produce something special as well. There's plenty of excitement still to come. See you in a moment. Don't forget, tomorrow morning, the Tour de France continues here on Versus live at 8 Eastern, Stage 3, and the sprinters will get a chance to impose the will on the Tour. Then on Wednesday at 7:30 a.m., Stage 5 takes place within Brittany as we stay on the Atlantic coastline. Tune in nightly at 8 Eastern for Tour de France Prime Time on Versus. And you think these views are good? They are. They come by courtesy of our Trek aerial view here. Today's Tour de France brought to you as always in HD. Superb pictures as we wander around the Vendée. And I have some tremendous news if you're supporting the American Garmin-Cervelo team, because Sky, and here they are just slipping behind the markers set by Team Garmin-Cervelo, because they're now 4 seconds slower at the second checkpoint. Well, look at this now, Paul. Bradley Wiggins is taking over at the front. Number 111 using all his power to drive on here as best he can. We have 7 riders. We dropped 2. It's cost them at the second check. But can they rally round here? Because these are the best exponents in the world at time trialing.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. They still look very solid. They still look... The 7 riders who remain in this Team Sky team here are all taking the pacemaking at the front end of the field. I have noticed that Bradley Wiggins is obviously feeling extremely powerful this afternoon, because he is taking longer turns at the front than anybody else, and so too is Geraint Thomas there in the white jersey, 117. He was the champion of Great Britain last year, and of course he wore the white jersey in the Tour de France last year as well. They're at 4 kilometers to go. That bridge over the motorway must have really hurt.
Well, they have to beat the time of Garmin-Cervelo to give Geraint Thomas a yellow jersey, because they're both on the same time of 6 seconds from yesterday. So they've got to beat him. 1 second will do, but they've got to beat the time of Garmin-Cervelo. Now, where are we? Down at the start line now for Radio Shack here. On the start line, they've got 2, well, I think they've got 4 contenders at this stage of the Tour for overall contenders. Leipheimer, Kloden, Horner and Brakovic. Those 4 guys could go all the way today to Paris as a possible winner. They've got to decide which one they will defend for, but there's no decision yet.
Well, as we look at these riders, the best placed rider in Team Radio Shack is Andreas Kloden. He's in great form currently, and the first team was to win the team time trial, as they did in the shape of Team Astana a number of years ago. Then it would be Andreas Kloden who would get himself the yellow jersey.
And that's what will be in their minds right now as Radio Shack get underway here. They won the Tour of Switzerland with Levi Leipheimer. They won the Amgen Tour of California with Chris Horner. They've had a tremendous season already. And now they're in the time trial in the Tour de France, and they're aiming for the yellow jersey once more.
Well, they've been no strangers to victory in the various forms, whether it's US Postal Service, Discovery Channel or Team Astana, of victories in the team time trial over the years. The rider in the slightly different coloured jersey there, by the way, is Jani Brakovic. One of the leaders of the team is the Slovenian national time trial champion.
Breton flag flies. We'll be in Brittany very shortly, but right now we're in the Vendée area of France, this diverse country here where they love the Tour de France despite all that's been thrown at it over the years by the public, by the riders and by the media. Team Radio Shack are now underway here, and they will love to get Chris Horner if they could. But Clerdon would be their man who will move into yellow if they were to win this team time trial today. He was right up in that finishing climb yesterday outside of Les Herbiers.
Yes, he finished in 7th place on the stage yesterday, and that was a pretty important performance for him. Chris Horner is in 9th place, and Levi Leipheimer a little bit further back. Levi Leipheimer, in fact, was involved in an incident at 2 kilometers to go, but given the same time as the group that he was with.
We'll take a note of this time checks at the moment. 24:48 is Garmin-Cervelo. Rabobank at 12 seconds. We reckon within 2 minutes Team Sky will be into that finishing line if they're going to take the overall lead. As we watch the departure here of Radio Shack, the next team to finish will be Team Sky. 14 teams are in, and now we catch up with the images of Team Sky here, and it looks to me as though the speed is so high. Ben Swift is under pressure at the back. The youngster in his first Tour de France, he's a sprinter. Well, he's having to learn the time trial, but if those 5 run away, that's okay. The time is on the 5th man to finish.
Well, they're big, powerful riders going through there. Juan Antonio Fletcher, the man who's more at home on the Belgian classics, races like the Tour of Flanders and Paris-Roubaix. Coming to the first time split, it's Team Cofidis. They're not going to rock anybody's foundations here this afternoon. It really is about what can Team Sky do.
Well, we're watching Cofidis. We have to show all of the teams, but it's Team Sky. We won't miss the finish, believe me. The time check coming for Cofidis, though. The Northern France French Pro team. Sky was 9:02, best time here as Cofidis go through 40 seconds slower at 9:43. That was to be expected, but what we want to see now is the final approach of Team Sky towards the finishing line, because they were 1 second up at that first check where Cofidis had just passed. They then went 4 seconds behind the Garmin-Cervelo at the second check. Now, who has survived the best? It is going to be very, very, very close indeed. 24:48. If they beat Garmin, then Geraint Thomas is sitting in the possibility of wearing yellow tonight. But they've got to beat Garmin to leave that still a possibility.
Bradley Wiggins leading him into the final 100 meters here. Bosenhagen in 2nd place. They're still very tight together, with Geraint Thomas just hanging on to the back of that line to be man number 5. Is going to be desperately close. It's 24:48 is the time to beat, and they know that. They will see the clock above the gantry finish line.
It is very, very, very close. The 5th time now. 24:48 is the time. I think they might do this. It is going to be desperately close as they hit the line. They've just passed by. They've stopped the clock at 24:52. 2nd place for Team Sky. Well, it is in an incredible time. I know they won't be happy with that because they are 4 seconds. They did that third sector in exactly the same time as Garmin-Cervelo. 4 seconds stays the margin. 24:52 for Team Sky. 2nd for them.
Back with Radio Shack, but as I've said, Phil, on a number of occasions, the finisher having more riders together in the last 10 kilometers makes it extremely important. That's where this race is being won and lost, as we can see that. We can see now that the provisional finish line is Garmin-Cervelo with 24:48, 4 seconds faster than Sky, 12 seconds faster than Rabobank.
Well, the situation we knew over such a short distance with these great top teams, seconds would decide the team time trial, and that is the way it is going to be. At the moment, it's the American squad, Team Garmin-Cervelo, who just slipped over on Sky, who made the best start so far of anybody, but Garmin kept it steady. The loss of those 2 riders early on by Team Sky, I think, probably caused their downfall.
Yes, it's so important in the last 10 kilometers when you need that little bit of extra firepower, or even in the last 5 kilometers. That's when the difference can be made. Even the power of Bradley Wiggins and Geraint Thomas could do nothing to pull back those 4 seconds they lost on Team Garmin-Cervelo. But they now must be in their team bus, Phil, not too far away from the finish line. They've actually been there for quite an awful time, because they're sitting watching probably the same television pictures as we are, wondering, is anybody going to go faster than we have?
And has Thor Hushovd converted the jersey he's been borrowing for the day, the King of the Mountains jersey, for yellow tonight, the world champion. but there's still some big teams here. That is not a done deal, absolutely not. We want the first time of Radio Shack. That could be a sensational time. There's good time trialists here, and they look very, very slick from the helicopter. HTC High Road, which has Mark Cavendish on board as well. They are expected to do an extremely good time trial. Leopard Trek with Andy Scheck have got to do a good time. The runner-up to Contador the past 2 years on that team. Cadell Evans is BMC, another American squad for the Australian. He's got to do a good time. And of course, the last team to go, Amiga Pharma Lotto, has Philippe Gilbert on it, who's currently got the yellow jersey. So it is not a done deal, of course, as we go down to the finish now to see this American team for San Luis Obispo in California. HTC High Road. There is Mark Cavendish. Also on the team is Bernard Eisel, Lars Bach, Matt Goss riding his first race, the Australian who won Milan San Remo. Tony Martin, who can do a bit of time trialing rather well. And what about Mark Renshaw and Peter Vellit? This is a good team, and it could win today.
Matty Goss just coming into the picture there. He may well be the man to lead them away here. 24 years of age and an experienced squad. They know the time to beat, and they want to beat it. There's a massive rivalry in the team time trial.
They're underway. Now it's their pressure. They know what's got to be done, because Garmin Cervelo is back home in the shower with the best time of the day, 24:48. And if you want the 100th, 0.1. And that's their official time in detail. Of course, in cycling, it's rounded to the nearest whole second. It's only in dead heats will they look at those tenths of a second. So they are now making their way out of town. They're actually leaving the finishing line because it's on their backs, about 500 meters away. They go round in a huge circle. They go on the outskirts of La Roche-sur-Yon, which is, oh my goodness me, they went too wide on the corner, and that was amazing, but they lost it straight away. And the rider who is on the floor here is Bernie Eisel, probably the most experienced of the lot. Now Eisel will probably not get back on here. He was dropped from the team, in fact, 2 years ago early on.
Well, I was just looking to see what happened there, and he's just, in fact, I think he might have just touched the wheel of the rider in front of him. This is a corner, probably the only dangerous corner on the course, and it's the nervousness of these riders going round that corner that has damned Bernie Eisel, probably to have to ride this 23-kilometre race on his own. I'm not sure they'll wait for him.
Well, I don't think they can possibly afford to wait for him, but if he finishes outside that 30%, he's got to ride the whole race alone now. He would be eliminated from the Tour de France. That is absolutely a sporting tragedy there for Bernard Eisel. It really is. Total misjudgment, touch of the wheel in front, and he sat on the road. Well, it all happens in team time trials, doesn't it? Andy Schleck and his team are still to start, but take a look at this team now. They're getting into the rhythm. Radio Shack could be the next challenge to the time of Garmin Cervelo at the finishing line. Why is it every year this team time trial always produces these incredible results? And it does. I think that's why we really like it in the Tour de France. This is Team Radio Shack now rushing up to the first check. There's the time of Sky. They were the first. Now the time of Garmin. They slip behind both. Team Astana. They will probably just go behind, will they? Yes, only just as they drop into fifth place Team Radio Shack with 9 minutes 11 seconds. They can improve on that. They might have made a more sensible start here. But that's rather sad. That's HTC High Road. Really didn't want that kind of a start. No team does. So just watching the riders move away. They're now doing 9.5 kilometers of 23, about 5.5 miles for Team Radio Shack. No change at the finish. Garmin Cervelo is there. There is Andy Schleck. He can't hear us. He's got his iPod in as he prepares for his start, and we'll be there for it too. Join the Aquaphor Le Tour Challenge, powered by Map My Ride and Versys, and compete against the top pros. I mean virtually, of course. Ride solo or ride as a team, you pick. Just get out and ride on any stage. Submit your ride to mapmyride.com/TDF and win leaders' jerseys, just like they do in the Tour. You can also win $150,000 in prizes. Sign up mapmyride.com/TDF. So as we continue now, this is the Cofidis squad. They're not going to affect the overall standings right now. It's become a battle of the big teams in the Tour de France. Garmin Cervelo are in. Sky has come in just 4 seconds behind them. Rabobank is there at 12 seconds. So we're looking at the world time trial champion now, Fabian Cancellara. This is Leopard Trek. They are the third from the last team to go out of the start house today. The man in the middle looking towards us is Andy Schleck.
30 seconds.
Tense moments for this team. It's a new team. Half the team walking out on the Saxo Bank squad last year, forming their own team out of Luxembourg around the Schleck brothers. Cancellara joined them off the same Saxo Bank team. Now, yesterday, Paul, this man nearly stole the show with that late attack up the hill, didn't he?
He has got great form, Fabian Cancellara. He won the final time trial of the Tour of Switzerland just recently, and he did almost win the stage yesterday, and he's the best placed rider in his squad coming up to the line.
So the last team in was Lamprey, and we now have behind only 2 teams left to start here. Cadel Evans, the Australian runner-up in 2 tours. He rides the American BMC team, and he got second yesterday. Best of all of the favourites. He's made a perfect start to the Tour de France.
Well, he's the man who's leading them off. He is one of the most experienced riders in the world at the individual time trial. He's won the World Time Trial Championships on 4 separate occasions, but he's also not too bad when it comes to steering a team in the team time trial. And he was the most important part of his team, Team Saxo Bank, at the time in 2009, when they almost beat Team Discovery Channel.
Well, Leopard Trek here. Don't forget the Leopard Trek. Yes, it's all built around a possible potential win for Andy Schleck. He's been second the last 2 years, don't forget. But because of the result yesterday, they would have to defend the lead. If they were to win today, they'd have to defend the lead on the shoulders of Linus Gerdemann, the German, because he was best placed in the finish yesterday. But he probably would not worry too much about that. He'd be proud to wear yellow. He's done it once before.
He certainly has. Number 171 at the back of the group. That is Mark Cavendish. I'm just looking to see whether they did sit up and wait at all for Bernie Eisel. I don't think with the fast start that they will have made, they have done that. But Cavendish, I asked him just before the start of the Tour de France, Phil, how he felt about the team time trial and how it was for a sprinter who normally is not very good at this discipline. He said, mate, I come from a track background. I used to ride the team pursuit. I know how to suffer just with the best of them.
And I'm sure he's going to suffer today for sure. Well, I rather hope you're right. They can't possibly afford to wait for Bernie Eisel. And he would have been a strong man for a little while in the time trial, although he's blown away pretty early on 2 years ago when we had a time trial. Oh, but it's not a good thing to lose somebody like Bernie Eisel, and he's a very, very popular member of the squad. He'd be embarrassed by that too, sitting on the floor by touching a wheel in front after that sharp left-hander. But here we go. Let's see how it's reflected on the first check. You see they're right up there, aren't they, as they get around that corner. They've gone around in 4th place. No, in fact, 6th place. Not the best of starts now. It's affected them. 9-11.
Well, they've lost themselves almost 9 seconds. They've taken a fairly moderate start, and they will be handicapped by missing a man.
So we're looking at HTC High Road. They're going to have to get themselves mentally reacclimated here now to this rest of this stage and forget Bernie. But remember, the faster they go, the further they leave Eisel behind. If he gets behind by 30% of their time, he's out of the Tour de France, and that's not what they'll want, because Eisel is such a strong member of the team on the road racing stages. This is the settling in moment. That is Andy Schleck, number 11 here. He doesn't like these time trials, and they know what they've got to do. They have the advantage of starting at the end of the 22 teams, so they know what Garmin Cervelo has done. They know what Sky has done, and Rabobank, and Alberto Contador's Saxo Bank. So they know what they've got to do. Cadel Evans, is he the next man in yellow today? It is very, very possible, you know, and Australia will go ballistic. We'll see in a minute. Looking down from the helicopter now, the last 2 teams to go. This is the BMC team. In the green jersey is Cadel Evans of Australia. Brent Buckwalter here in his 2nd Tour de France is a big support now from America. Berghardt, George Hincapie, the most experienced. And this is a top team. But they have got to ride to the best of their ability today if they're going to put Cadel Evans in yellow tonight.
5, 4, 3,
Tense moments.
2, 1, top.
Now, it was a perfect day for Cadell yesterday. Well, if you speak to him, it wasn't a perfect day because he wanted to win the stage and be the first yellow jersey. But the fact he finished second was a terrific result. He gained a march over all of the Tour favourites and a huge march over Alberto Contador of 1 minute and 17 seconds. So today, Paul, if this team can pull it off, and George Hincapie is the man to help them, if they can pull it off, then we're going to be in yellow tonight. Now, at the finishing line, Garmin Cervelo sit there with best time, 24:48. Sky is in second, Rabobank is in third, and Saxo Bank of Alberto Contador is in fourth. Now, what do you think BMC can do, Paul? We don't see that they could either do a great ride or a disastrous ride, couldn't they?
Well, I think they'll do a good ride because one of the management members of Team BMC Racing is Jim Okovits, and through his association with 7-Eleven, and let's not forget 7-Eleven 25 years ago participated in the Tour de France, the first American team to do so. Okovits then brought on board Team Motorola, and then he was always very, very keen on the team time trial, spent a lot of time preparing for it. And I know BMC, of course, they're a bicycle manufacturer, but they've spent a lot of time and money into research and development of good time trial bikes, and putting that together with the aerodynamics of putting the riders into the wind tunnel during the winter months, I think they'll do a solid ride here this afternoon. They're completely motivated.
Well, Cadell Evans, I know the Aussies will be cheering Cadell Evans because he got a good start yesterday with that second place, putting best of all of the favourites for the next 3 weeks. And he is the man now at 34 years of age. He's had 2 second places in the Tour de France, lost only by seconds. So he knows what a massive gain he made yesterday of well over 1 minute on Contador, because seconds count. Now, this is the interesting one. The arrival of Team Leopard Trek here. It's going to be a good ride as well too. They've a little way to go now. They won't be better than the Sky team, but they're right up there, and they're being led by the big man Spartacus himself. As they lock up for the corner, the clock will stop. It is going to drop in nicely into third place. It should be. It's at the same time. They've gone through exactly the same time as Team Astana. So 9:09 for Leopard Trek.
But I think more importantly, Phil, they've still got all 9 riders present and correct in this group. And in third place there, the grimace on the face of Jens Voigt, followed by Stuart O'Grady. The men who will have the hardest ride in this group this afternoon will be the men who are not good at the time trial. That'll be Frank Schleck and Andy.
Well, at the time check now, with 2 teams to come, by the way, Sky Pro Cycling were best here, followed by Garmin Cervelo 1 second, and Leopard Trek are now third at 7, equal with Team Astana. Astana did slow down. Will Leopard Trek accelerate here? Sky also slowed down, but only by 3 seconds. Well, if you could see the faces of these riders on Leopard Trek now, you would see. I caught a glimpse of Andy Schleck's face. He was gritting his teeth, Paul. This is a chance to put a nail into Alberto's coffin.
Well, it is, but Andy Schleck is not good at this kind of effort. He's a mountain man, and he will rely on his team here this afternoon to try and increase the gap between himself and Alberto Contador in the overall standings. But now, Radio Shack have improved over the last few meters. They're not going to get the fastest time on the run-up towards the finish line here, but maybe, again, they'll put time between themselves and Alberto Contador. It's a great time.
The most important thing is it won't win the day, but it will keep their top 4 potential winners of this tour well within reach, because we're only going to talk seconds again tomorrow. This is a good result for Levi Leipheimer and Chris Horner as Team Radio Shack sprint up to the line here. Time taken on the fifth man, 24:58. That's a brilliant third place, so they'll be happy with that.
Well, it's a well-balanced ride, Phil, because at the first time check they were down by 9 seconds. They were 15 seconds down at this next time check, and they in fact improved over the last part of the course.
And Team High Road, we didn't see them, but they've gone through now the second check, and they're still holding on to 4th place, 14 seconds only off the time of Garmin Cervelo.
And bear in mind that that's exactly what Radio Shack did. They took a moderate start, accelerated in the middle part of the course, and then went extremely fast in the last part of the course. HTC High Road was 6th. They've climbed up to 5th, but they're only talking about 15 seconds. But Leopard Trek are now about to be a man down. They've lost the Dutchman, Joost Postuma.
Yes, he's gone now, and that was the first sign, because the speed that Spartacus was setting, he's the big man here in the white as world champion. He holds the record for world champion. He's also the reigning Olympic champion, and Fabian Cancellara here just loves to get to grips against the watch, and he's usually the man that beats the battle there. So as the British flag flies on the right of the road there, the British team Sky sit 4 seconds off the lead in second place at the finishing line. This team is going to run them pretty close.
Yes, the best placed rider in Leopard Trek after the yesterday's stage, Linus Gerdemann, lying in 11th place, just 1 place ahead of Frank Schleck. Cancellara cracked a little bit on the run up towards the finish line, and he crossed the line in 18th place, but he will be the powerhouse of this team in the final 5 kilometers.
Well, the public here in the Vendée have seen some terrific racing today. They're now witnessing the world champion Spartacus here as part of the Leopard Trek team. Can they upset the result at the finish? They're looking pretty good right now, and there's only 2 teams to go behind them, BMC and Amiga.
Well, Amiga being the last team to start.
So as they continue to make their way, the crowd seem to be getting bigger and bigger here as these riders go through. They've waited to see these big names in the sport of cycling. This is a brand new team, but all of the names are well known to these people.
No, they certainly are. They're a man down, but that may not matter, because when you ride something like the team time trial, I have to say Fabian Cancellara is worth 3 men.
Well, here we go. The last of 22 teams. We've had a great day so far. Philippe Gilbert is having a great season. He now has 14 wins to his credit. He starts for the first time in his life as the leader of the Tour de France. Now his team is going to have to produce something very special if he's going to keep yellow tonight. I don't think they can, but sometimes you're inspired, Paul. At the moment, Garmin Cervelo sit best team at the finish. Logically, their man Thor Hushoff will be the leader tonight, but this race is not over yet, and there are still 4 teams to come home. They're away. Omega Pharma Lotto now, the faithful teammates of Philippe Gilbert. They know what they have to do.
Well, they certainly do, Phil, and I have to say I don't mean this in any derogatory manner at all, but this has never been one of the top teams when it comes to the team time trial. But you've always said when you've got the yellow jersey on your shoulders, or when you've got the yellow jersey in the team, it can inspire the team to do much better performances. And Philippe Gilbert, he probably feels that he's got a big chance of losing the jersey this afternoon, but he may well inspire the riders to push themselves above and beyond the call of duty.
Now quickly into rhythm. This is going to be forever known as the Eisel corner here. That's where he fell off, Bernie Eisel, from the HTC. It is a hard corner, that I have to say. They all rocked and rolled a little bit and quickly got themselves back into sprinting formation. Jürgen Rollins is the rider sat here at the back.
He's a rider who had a very nasty crash just the other day alongside his own teammate Jürgen van der Walle. And a lot of crashes in the opening day, and those crashes have actually had a fairly serious effect on the look of the overall standings, especially when you start to talk about Alberto Contador, who got stuck behind, and I have to say, a traffic jam at around about 6 miles to go to the finish of yesterday's stage, and lost himself at the end of the day 1 minute and 20 seconds on Philippe Gilbert.
Yes, and right now he sits 28 seconds further behind team Garmin Cervelo with his team time today, because Saxo Bank are only in 5th place. 28 seconds covers the first 5 teams to finish, and he's going to slip further away, I think, once team HTC High Road comes in, because I think they're steadily going quicker and quicker. They've gone through in 4th place at the second check, and they're now running down towards the finish. They are the next team to reach the finishing line. Go back to Radio Shack here. The green jersey of points, BMC, the green jersey of points being worn by Cadel Evans.
Well, this is not a bad ride by Cadel Evans' team, because they will probably not rival the time of Team Sky Pro Cycling, but they'll be very close to the top end of the leaderboard as they go around this corner. They're going to stop it inside, pretty much inside. Well, that's an incredible time. 3rd.
That is a super time, at 9:04 there for Team BMC. That is a great ride. Somebody's inspiring them back there, because it was 9:03 for Garmin-Cervelo and 9:02 for the Sky Pro Cycling team. And as we've seen, things change over the next kilometres or next 15 kilometres or so. That's a great start.
Swinging off the front, number 144. Quick glimpse there was George Hincapie riding his 16th Tour de France, but it's now HTC High Road. They went through the first time check, Phil, in 7th place. They climbed up to 4th place. Now, what are they going to be on the finishing line?
Because they've gone steadily better and better, and let's hope Bernie Eisel, who's riding a lone trail behind this team, doesn't drop behind by more than 30% of whatever time they do. Otherwise, he'll be heading home tonight back into his nation of Austria. Tour done. These are the boys coming home now. They carry Mac Goss of Australia. They carry Mark Cavendish, the sprinter. And they carry riders who want to look even further than that, like the newcomer, TJ Van Garderen from Montana, the rider who has visions in the next couple of years of winning the Tour de France. It's the first tryout for him now. This is a pretty good time. They've definitely gone quicker and quicker here. Now, the third time finish is that of Radio Shack of 24:58. Are they going to make the top 3 at the moment? Just take a look at those faces. These boys are firing on all cylinders now. Every second really counts in this short team time trial today. You can probably hear the speaker of the man on the P, Daniel Manjas, calling them home now. It is going to be desperately close for third place as they go. Oh, they've just gone through. It'll be 4th best at 24:50. Third, they've got it. No, they've got it. So they slot it in. They get quicker and quicker. 24 minutes 53 for HTC High Road. Well, I have to say, getting my breath back here, I've got pens and papers all over the place. This is such an incredible team time trial today, and it's not over yet, because we've got Leopard Trek, BMC and Amiga Pharma Lotto all to finish. There's Garmin. Today at 3 p.m. Eastern, the Tour de France continues on NBC with additional coverage of today's stage, and it is a terrifically exciting team time trial. It's additional coverage of the Tour de France Stage 2 later today at 3 p.m. Eastern on NBC. Well, as we gaze down on the church in the centre of the town of Les Essarts, this is how it stands now as we're running out of teams to finish. Team Garmin-Cervelo have had a long wait, but they're still there. A bit of a shock when Pro Cycling went through the first check quicker, but they dropped down 4 seconds back. HTC High Road are in third. Let's join the team at BMC, the American squad here, working for the Australian in green to convert it to yellow tonight. Well, BMC continue to battle here. They're heading towards the second check in Le Melatier at third. They've got 16 kilometres where the check is. They're third on the road at the check, at the first check. We are also waiting now for Leopard Trek to get through to the finishing line to see if they kept the pressure up on Garmin-Cervelo and Sky Pro Cycling.
Hincapie's the man at the front, 144, burying himself for his teammate. He looked after Cadel Evans to perfection yesterday, Phil. He was like the pilot fish, moving him forward, keeping him out of difficulty. A little bit further back down the course, now we join Omega Pharma Lotto, rumoured to be joining forces next year with Quick Step to form the great big new Super Belgian team.
Well, as they come to this check here, they're already slipping rapidly down the overall, so the maillot jaune is off the shoulders of Philippe Gilbert tonight. But where is it going to? And the man in the favourite will be Thor Hushovd, the Norwegian on the American Garmin-Cervelo team. Because as they make this turn here, they are down amongst just in the top 20 as they go around that corner. 16th, 9 minutes 28. So there's no doubt we will have a new leader of the Tour tonight.
Well, currently, if we were to stop the race, the yellow jersey would be on the shoulders of Thor Hushovd. But Thor Hushovd, Phil, let's not forget, is 3 seconds behind Cadel Evans in the overall standings. And at the moment of the first time check, BMC Racing were only 1 second behind Team Garmin-Cervelo.
I never knew we needed qualifications in mathematics to commentate on bicycle races, but it's true at the moment. If they can hold that pressure to the end, Cadel Evans of Australia will lead the Tour won. He's led it before, but never on day 2 of the Tour de France, and never with such an advantage over Alberto Contador. Now the arrival of Leopard Trek as they come in towards the finish. Have they kept the pressure on? They were 4th now at the second check, but we're only talking 8 seconds off the lead. And Fabian Cancellara, we expected this, has upped the engine and is going to drag them up the finishing straight here, firing on 4 cylinders. This man was so good, they once accused him of having a motor on his bike. He says, no, but I've got motors in both legs, and he uses them on a daily basis in the time trial. He will drive it on. The best time is 24:48. That time has gone by, but it's a great finish. It is an incredible finish. They've held third, 24:53 for Leopard Trek.
That is an unbelievable performance, and I tell you what, Phil, they owe a big debt of gratitude to the man in the white jersey, world champion in the individual time trial, Fabian Cancellara. But what a great job of work for Andy Schleck.
Well, they've beaten HTC by 0.6 of a second. That's all. So that sprint was necessary to take them into the top 3. Now, all gaining time, of course, over Alberto Contador as we go back to Cadel Evans. This is the crucial time check for Cadel Evans now, as Team BMC went through the first check in 3rd place, but only 2 seconds behind Sky and 1 second behind Team Garmin-Cervelo, who are still the best team at the finish. Now, if Cadel Evans can hold that sort of a gap, he will be in yellow tonight. It's an incredible result. It really has been a gripping team time trial.
I have to say one thing, you've got to rue the fall of Bernie Eisel. HTC High Road for 5 seconds. They were one man down. If Bernie Eisel hadn't fallen in one of those first corners, what a different story we might have been talking this afternoon.
Absolutely so. Now, BMC have come up on the board of the second check, 6 seconds behind Garmin-Cervelo now. 6 seconds. That would give Thor Hushoff the lead. Well, this is unbelievable at the moment, and now the Omega Pharma Lotto boys have got 2 teammates struggling here to keep up in the same situation. Jurgen van der Volle and Jelle van Endert. Jelle van Endert, first timer in the Tour de France on the team. Van der Volle is number 37. But he is the rider who had that problem yesterday and did a headstand when we had that crash. And so he's probably feeling pretty stiff today. But the big question is, can Cadel Evans get yellow, or will Thor Hushoff be in yellow? They are locked together, equal on time. And now it's all down to what the Team BMC can do. There are 2 teams left to finish in the team time trial. There's only one that can disturb a perfect day for Team Garmin-Cervelo, and that is Team BMC. 2 American teams going head-to-head here, and they're both trying to get foreign riders in the yellow. If Garmin are to win, they will put the Norwegian Thor Hushoff in yellow. If BMC are going to win, they will put the Australian Cadel Evans in yellow. Now, the time Cadel Evans' team must do is 24 minutes and 51 seconds. If they do that, Evans will lead the race tonight. If they don't, Hushoff will. This is a massive turn now. We're looking at 24:51 if it's to be a perfect day for BMC and for Cadel Evans. Head-to-head, 2 American teams. How the world has changed in the last few years, Paul.
Well, it could turn around here because it takes around about 1 minute and 5 seconds to cover the final kilometre. Cadel Evans will bury himself over these final few corners. Hincapie sitting there in the wings in 3rd position, ready to take over the pace-making if Cadel starts to falter. The time they've got to beat, 24:48. Whether or not he finishes within 3 or 4 seconds of that is not important. They would like to win this team time trial here this afternoon. Look at Cadel Evans, Phil. He looked over his shoulders there to make sure he wasn't damaging his boys too much.
Well, 3 seconds is the magic margin here. That's what Cadel Evans had advantage over Thor Hushoff at the start of the day. Garmin-Cervelo are beside themselves at the finishing line here as they see if that clock hits 24:51. Hushoff will be in yellow. If it's a better time than that, Evans will be in yellow. At the moment, he's got 10 seconds to get there. They can see the line, but it is such a long way up to the finishing straight here. Evans has driven this race home. The time is slipping by. Second best time for BMC. In itself, a tremendous ride, but 4 seconds the difference. 1 second has swung it the way of Garmin Cervelo. Tomorrow they lead the Tour de France.
Yeah, and that will be on the shoulders of Thor Hushoff, but that is a phenomenal ride. You cannot dispute this, Phil, by Team BMC Racing. Third of the third time check, third of the second, and pulling themselves up into second place and pushing Team Sky Pro Cycling down into third by a fraction of a second.
BMC in second place by 4 seconds, slightly better by 1/10 of a second over Sky Pro Cycling. You take third. Leopard Trek come in fourth, and HTC lost by 4/10 of a second or something like that. They've been pushed into 5th place. Radio Shack is in 6th. No surprise about the teams in that block, except I feel BMC, arguably they've done the ride of the day, Paul. That was a terrific ride by BMC.
No, it was phenomenal, and it's all I say a lot to do with the association that Jim Okovitz has got with the team time trial discipline. He's always appreciated it and always made sure whatever team he's been with, whether it's been the 7-Eleven squad back in the 1980s, whether it's been Motorola in the 1990s, or now BMC in the 2000s, he's always invested time, money and effort in this discipline.
Yeah, and in the longer term, looking over 3 weeks, Cadell Evans has just gained 24 seconds over Alberto Contador, and that is pretty crucial considering he lost the Tour by a similar margin, 23 seconds, a few years ago.
That now will put Alberto Contador, at a quick calculation, a good 1 minute and 40 seconds behind a lot of his big favourite rivals.
This is going to be a great tour. It's had the feeling from day one here in the Vendée, and it hasn't let us down. These boys have fought for everything yesterday and today. Well, he had a brilliant day yesterday. He had his 14th win of the year. Last weekend he was winning the championship of Belgium. Last night he pulled on the maillot jaune of the Tour de France. Today he won't be wearing that jersey tomorrow, but it's been a great team time trial for a team that do not specialise in this type of event. So Philippe Gilbert is going to have to bring them all in. He's gone through with the 13th best time at the second check. He's gone through there in 17 minutes and 20 seconds. And we will see him all the way to the finish, and he's going to drop in around the top 15 just if he's lucky. And he's only got 6 riders left with him.
Well, don't discount this man trying to fight back into a yellow jersey position, because in a couple of days we've got a very nasty hilltop finish. It's the kind of hilltop that would suit a man like Philippe Gilbert. To the Mur de Bretagne, it's about a 3.5 kilometre climb, and there'll be some serious time gaps there. And on that occasion, the 3 kilometre rule does not exist.
Right, and didn't you tell me it was his birthday then?
His birthday's on Tuesday.
Oh, on Tuesday. All right. Well, what day is Tuesday? I mean, not what day. What stage is Tuesday? Well, nonetheless, it is another hilltop finish which will suit Philippe Gilbert, just like yesterday, but it's a little bit harder than the finish yesterday on Les Alouettes. He's continuing to plug on. He will know already what the times are. He will know where the situation is. He's not going to push himself to the limits now. There's no point. The jersey is gone. It might or might not come back. Either way, he's had his moment in the Tour de France, and his magical season continues. And this team will have other sights now over the next 3 weeks as the time ticks away. But there's no doubt about the result of the race today. Garmin Cervelo win the race, 24 minutes 48 seconds. BMC Racing got quicker and quicker and quicker. They're only 4 seconds out in second place, and that is a fraction of a second quicker than Sky Pro Cycling, who will also finish officially 4 seconds slower than Garmin Cervelo in third. And Leopard Trek will take fourth, HTC High Road fifth. And this team will not affect the top 6 standings.
The amazing thing is, Phil, the first 5 teams only separated on the road by 5 seconds after 23 kilometres of racing, 13 miles.
Which has left the race really close. And, of course, Saxo Banks Alberto Contador not in that very elite group of finishers. So he concedes more time today in the team time trial. He'll be glad to get to the mountains where he feels he's in his own back garden.
Yes, he's going to have to get his morale and his psyche back together. He's going to have to rustle up the morale and the support of his troops. And maybe he can take a back seat, but don't sit too far back down the main field, because it was because of that he actually got caught behind that crash yesterday.
Yeah.
It'll be a long, nervous week before we get to the mountains.
It's a long, long way now for the last team to finish, knowing that there's no yellow jersey at the finish, but you've got to complete the course. And it's only in an hour's time or so, when all the results come out, we will know if any riders have been eliminated by their teams today. And I think the only cause for likely concern would be Bernard Eisel, who dropped from the team on that first corner with the fall, and they've pushed to a great time, and he's had to do the course all by himself.
No, certainly, hopefully Bernie Eisel will get himself inside of the time limit, because it's a long ride to ride 23 kilometres on your own on a time trial course like this. But just looking at the way the overall standings is likely to be at the end of the day, Cadel Evans in second place for 1 second from Thor Hushovd. I would think Cadel Evans would be nurturing thoughts of possibly grabbing the yellow jersey himself in a couple of days' time at the top of the climb of the Mur de Bretagne.
Well, that's something else to look forward to as we go into Brittany now, which is another hotbed here in France for cycling. Well-known cyclists from Brittany. Lucien Bobet, who won the Tour de France 3 times, is one of them. Always in rivalry with the Normandy Riders department, which is next door. And this is the team coming down now towards the finish to end what has been a fascinating team time trial in a beautiful town here in Les Essarts. 1 kilometre to the finish. There's been a spread of about 400 or 500 metres between start and finish, and the crowd in between there have had a party, believe me, with all the vendors which have been linking the start to the finish for the team time trial.
And this could be a bit of a handicap too, Phil, for Jürgen van den Broek, who finished in 4th place in the Tour de France last year, because my calculation is here, he could well end up losing himself almost a minute on his rivals for the podium position.
Now, this was a very difficult finish here. Very difficult for the riders to squeeze out extra time. We saw the big teams coming in. They put their strongest time trialists on the front, and that's where he stayed. Hushovd brought home Garmin Cervelo. Cancellara brought home his team Leopard Trek, and Evans brought home the team BMC. They never swapped as they came towards the end. It's all over now as the seconds tick away. Thor Hushovd has become the new leader of the Tour de France, and he rides for the American Garmin Cervelo team. The world champion has turned his season around, because since he won the world champion, he hasn't had much at all. This is the yellow jersey coming home for the last time as the last team finishes Omega Pharma Lotto. They won't even look at the time, I don't think. 10th place. They did improve, though, considerably over that last sector. 25-27 at their final time.
So the last moment in the yellow jersey for Philippe Gilbert, but for the American team Garmin Cervelo, they will be donning the yellow jersey this afternoon for the first time since the team was put together many years ago, and they'll go onto the shoulders of the Norwegian world champion, Thor Hushovd. So
now let's see. There we are. There's the results for you. Garmin Cervelo, isn't that make happy reading? Win the team time trial stage of the Tour de France. BMC, another American squad, in second place. The British team Sky in third. There's a changing of the guard at the top of the world of cycling for sure. Radio Shack in 6th place, Rabobank 7th, and Saxo Bank with Contador only 8th at the finish, and losing more time for last year's winner of the Tour de France. There's the top 15 for you. Well, don't go away, because we'll have everything we can grab for you, plus, of course, the final wrap-ups and the podiums, and we'll see a new yellow jersey as well. And that's where it's going. See you in a moment.
It's the most epic race ever, and now you can get there in ultimate style with the Izod Race for the Podium sweepstakes. Just enter the daily on-air code words at NBCSports.com/podium for your chance to win Cervelo bikes and a grand prize VIP trip for 2 to the 2012 Tour de France. Don't miss the excitement of the
2011 Tour de France on Versus is brought to you by the Le Mans Revolution. Direct drive technology makes roller-based bike trainers obsolete. And by Specialized.
Welcome back to Les Essarts in the Vendée. We have witnessed a terrific ride today by the American team Garmin Cervelo. So there's no prizes today as to guess who is today's road ID of the day. It has to be the team Garmin Cervelo. As we look around the area here, let's have a look at them in action. This was an incredible ride. They gambled on bringing here a team that was capable of winning this at the expense of leaving somebody as good as Dan Martin for further down the road. He didn't get to start because of his lack of strength, perhaps, in the team time trial. This team set off with determination. They didn't set in the end the best mark at the first check. They were only second, but they were only a second off the pace set by Sky. By the time they got to the second check, Sky were behind them by 4 seconds. And by the time they started to drive down to the finish, they were going to set the best time of the day. Led home by the man from Norway, the god of thunder, Thor Hushovd. Highest placed on the individual classification yesterday is in yellow now. If you want to win, a chance to win over $12,000 in prize, including a 2011 Trek Madon, head on over to roadid.com/winner. And I reckon right now that Thor Hushovd will be heading on over to the finishing line podiums there, and will be having his yellow jersey embroidered with his sponsors' names before they put him on the stage. That was an incredible ride. Sometimes, you know, things do work out, don't they? He's worn yellow before. He did it back in 2004 where he held the jersey for a day, and he won the prologue in 2006 where he also held it for a day. This was the last team to start of the 22. Philippe Gilbert, our hero of yesterday. It looked as though they might produce the goods at the first check, but by the time they got to the finish, although they continued to improve, they were not a team to match the pure speedsters in this year's Tour de France. Gilbert left the race not as the leader again. Saxo Bank, they've got to have cause for concern. I thought the ride was superb, but they had nothing to base it on. They started very quickly. They lost riders. Number 1, Alberto Contador, kept the pace high, and off the back came all of the men who couldn't drive with the pace. But the time was good when they finished. But one by one, it was pushed down until it was only the 8th best time of the day when they finally saw all 22 teams come home. So Alberto Contador tonight has lost time to the majority of his main rivals for victory in this race in Paris. It's not been a good 2 days for him. Team Radio Shack, I think they've fared a little better. They've got 4 likely winners of the Tour de France on this American team, including the 2 Americans, Levi Leipheimer and Chris Horner. So for the moment, they're just riding as a team, and they'll let the roads decide which one is the strongest and who'll go for the win in Paris. Well, right now, we've received no answers to that question, because this was a terrific ride, which put them home in 6th place. But more importantly, they only lost the race by 10 seconds, so they're still in the big game. For Team HTC High Road, well, they got off to the start that only a witch dreams about, I reckon, because look at this. A touch of wheels, a bang. Down goes Bernie Eisel, one of their strong men from Austria. They couldn't wait for him. Time is of the essence. They had to leave him, and let's hope he gets in and beats the elimination time. As they drove home to the finish, Mark Cavendish bringing them up as well. It was, when they arrived, a very good team in the top 4, but it wasn't to be the best time. They were to lose 4th place eventually to Leopard Trek by just 0.6 of a second. And here is Leopard Trek. Fabien Cancellara leading away with the immense strength this man has. He's such a strong man. He almost won yesterday with an exhibition of strength on the finishing climb, but he got caught just near the finish. But this was a tremendous race by Leopard Trek. They got better and better and better, and the speed of this man is second to none. He almost dragged them onto the podium. Didn't quite do it. 1 second too slow to make the top 3 finishes. But hey, 5 seconds is nothing, even in the Tour de France. Cadel Evans annoyed with himself for not winning yesterday. He made his attack a little bit too late to catch Philippe Gilbert, and he was really annoyed about it. Believe me, he wanted to start the Tour de France in yellow. So today seemed the perfect day. Their speed was good. They started chucking off riders as well. Big George Hincapie was the main driver of the team. In the end, Cadel Evans had to take over and do the driving, and drive he did, because when he reached the finish, it was the 2nd best time of the day, and it was just 1 second of him pulling on the yellow jersey tonight. Can you make a closer event than this one? It really was tremendous. Team Sky left their mark as well. They too made the start they expected. Best time at the first check, but they lost men, and the speedsters really drove them to the line, and in the end they finished 3rd by just that few tenths of a second better than Team Leopard Trek. Garmin-Cervelo were saving the best till the last. They were the first team of all the stars to leave today, and their time was the marker that they all shot at, and they couldn't get to it. Sky gave it the best shot. They were a second up on them at the first check, and then they slowly dropped away. This was a demonstration of how to ride a team time trial, and the American team has learned the game rather quickly now, and they've shown the rest of the world today they really were the very, very best. 24 minutes and 48 seconds. So let's see them now on the podium, and there they are. Well, I'd love to see Jonathan Vaughters now. This is what he's always dreamt of, putting a team up there, having won the team time trial of the Tour de France. Sporting the white glasses there is Dave Zabriskie. All smiles in his first tour is Tommy Danielson from Boulder, Colorado. This is a momentous day for these boys. And the world champion on the left is the man who will shortly be pulling on the yellow jersey for the third time in his career. Tommy D just in front of us here. This team really gave it some stuff today. Thor Hushovd tried to win yesterday, so they had to work that little bit harder to convert his third place finish yesterday into the lead of the overall classification tonight. How he's turned his season around after his stage win in last month's Tour of Switzerland, his first win as the world champion, and now the yellow jersey in the Tour de France. Well, we just had a nice glimpse there of Jonathan Vaughters on the podium there, Paul. He looked all smiles. I'm not surprised. They win the race by 24.48. BMC, 4 seconds. Sky Pro. They're going to celebrate all day, I think, here. The Norwegian flags. There's a big Norwegian following here, you know, because Thor Hushovd is their superstar.
Well, the thing is, Phil, as well, you mentioned about the choice of the squad and leaving out a couple of riders. Well, I think today that decision has been upheld.
Yeah, I quite agree. Let's have a look then at as we watch. Oh, there's Jonathan Vaughters there. A rider in the Tour de France, but sadly never did reach the finish for some very good reasons, usually falling off, and in one case he got stung by a wasp in his eye, and his eye closed up. Because of the doping regulations, he couldn't take anything to cure the problem, so he had to retire from the Tour de France. How sad was that? Well, let's have a look then at the results. This is going to make happy reading if you're an American, because Team Garmin-Cervelo is an American team, and it tops another American team, BMC Racing, by just 4 seconds. It'll probably be rounded up to 5. Sky Pro Cycling the same. They'll lose 5 seconds in third. Leopard Trek will also lose 5 seconds in fourth. And HTC High Road, the other American team, in fifth. Radio Shack, did I say it? The fourth team in sixth. And right now we can go to Craig Hummer, who has got Jonathan Vaughters with him on his shoulders, probably.
Jonathan, this is clearly a day you have dreamed about for a very long time. Describe the emotions when you were just on the podium.
I think I just made a fool of myself, but I can't say I really care. I mean, this has been you know, a long time coming. I mean, we fought very hard for a lot of stage wins of the Tour de France, and you know, and we've always done it as a team. And you know, for our first win at this race to be as a team, and when I say team, I mean, you know, this one, yours, the mechanics, our aerodynamic specialists, our directors, everyone put so much into this. It's phenomenal. I mean, we don't have the biggest budget, we don't have the biggest staff, but we have the most passionate people in cycling. And you know, today it came together 100%. Our strategy worked, our riders were, you know, I mean, they operated perfectly. More importantly than that, they were completely selfless. It wasn't worrying about who was in the 5 to the finishing line, or it was we just put out a plan that got us to the line fastest, and the amount of sacrifice that all the guys had to do was to get that to happen was unbelievable. So I'm very proud, and I'm just yeah.
Congratulations on a milestone, and enjoy the win.
Thank you very much.
Yes, well, the thing is, a lovely smile, hasn't he, Jonathan Vaughters? I was going to cry for the moment, and we would have forgiven him for that if he had, because he wins by 4 seconds, and that's all from BMC and Sky. But there's the moment now. Third time in his career, Thor Hushovd pulls on the maillot jaune. He last wore it when he won the prologue of the Tour de France in Strasbourg in Germany, and that gave him the first yellow jersey as winner of the Tour. He held it for 1 day. Well, I think he might be figuring on trying to lead this tour for a little bit longer now, because tomorrow will favour the sprinters a little bit. Bit of a tough climb the next day up the Mur de Bretagne, but he proved yesterday he can get up the hills. He's won the green jersey in the past as well. Let's remind ourselves of the situation with the Michelob Ultra overall standings. He's on the same time of his teammate David Miller, who helped him yesterday get up into that position. Cadel Evans is third at that 1 second we said. Geraint Thomas at 4, Linus Gerneman at 4 on the Leopard Trek team. Brother Frank, not Andy, is 4 seconds in 6th place. Cancellara, these are all the boys who finished well up yesterday, you see, being reflected now. Andy Schleck in 10th place. Bradley Wiggins in 12th place alongside George Hincapie there. Well, let's have a look what happens tomorrow with our Michelin map, because this will make better reading tomorrow for the men of the flat, I think. We're still very much in the west of France as we go north now towards Redon, and the crowds will stay, plenty of them, believe me. Marlon-sur-Mer now, the riders continue on a nice long stage. It's not flat in this area, although we're not far away from the Atlantic Ocean at any time. It undulates, one little fourth category climb. We've got the big sprint, remember, halfway along the stage 2. And we'll finish up by the Pont du Saint-Nazaire, which is a massive bridge over the river, and a total distance 198 kilometres. So don't forget, Stage 2 coverage continues today on NBC at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Stage 3 Alon-sur-Mer to Redon. That's live on Versus tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. So enjoy it all now, and it's time for us now to say goodbye from an extraordinary day in Les Essarts. The Vendée has not been a happy experience for Alberto Contador, but it has for everybody else. NBCSports.com is where you go for highlights and exclusive content. And the team time trial is in action today. Peter Miller provided our clothing as well as the speedsters went round the turn of Les Essarts. Congratulations today to a fantastic ride by Garmin Cervelo, but all 4 American teams excelled in the Tour de France today. The lead now on the shoulders of Norway's Tor Hushovd, who rides for the American Garmin Cervelo team. I hope you've enjoyed the coverage. This was a great day of racing in the Tour de France, and face up to it, we have 3 more weeks of it to come right here on Versus. For all of the team here in the Vendée, we'll see you all again bright and early tomorrow, especially in the West Coast. Goodbye.